All right. Hello, everybody. Good morning. We are here. It is Thursday, April 23rd. We are live. We're only a minute late. Everyone in the chat spamming late. It's literally 1 minute late. Someone said, you know what Amit and Jerome Powell happen often? Too late. We're here. We're live. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We got a lot to talk about, a lot to get into. There is so much that is happening in the global capital equity markets in the context of earnings. We had two major earnings last night, Tesla and ServiceNow. Both decent numbers, but not good price reaction. Did Trump just tweet just now, right when I went live? He did 1 minute ago. Okay, here we go. Trump, I have ordered the United States Navy to shoot and kill any boat, small boats though they may be, that is putting mines in the water of the Strait of Hormuz. There is to be no hesitation. Additionally, our minesweepers are clearing the strait right now. I'm hereby ordering that activity to continue, but at a tripled up level. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Okay, so I mean that's not really new news. They said this on Saturday that they were going to start getting rid of the mines. So I don't think that's too crazy. I don't think that's too bearish either, although the markets have been absolutely crazy in terms of the price action. Last night, they went down a lot, then they came back up. Then this morning, they went down a lot, then they came back up. And we'll talk about kind of what happened over the past 12 hours, which has caused this price action right now. S&P basically flat right here in the pre-market. Actually kind of down 0.26%. It was up a little bit more. But you got Trump right there tweeting that he has ordered to get rid of as many mines as possible in the Strait of Hormuz. Obviously, the boats and the ships cannot pass if those mines are still there. So it makes sense that they're taking action on that. We got a lot to talk about. We got a lot to get into. ServiceNow, Tesla, big earnings that we had after the bell, different things that are happening in terms of how those companies are showing the trajectory of growth. We have a bunch of different macro updates to talk about. Yesterday was a really green day. We were up 1%, 7-11-21. Let's see if that green day can continue. Monday and Tuesday were red. Wednesday ended up flipping green. It was actually one of the best days we had all year. Yesterday, NVIDIA closed at 202.50. You had Palantir at 150. A lot of these different names got a lot of momentum. Google was almost at 340. Today, we got to see if it can continue. Today is a Thursday. Thursdays historically have not been good under Trump 2.0. And so hopefully this Thursday is a bit better. Last Thursday was kind of decent, but I think 6 of the last 7 Thursdays, if you annualize the return, it would be down 126% for the year. So, hopefully we get a little bit of a trend change going into Thursdays, and we'll talk about all the different stuff going on in the macro today. Car, that's down 9% after being down 37% yesterday. That one getting into a little bit of a car crash right there. AMD finally getting that 3 handle and holding it in the pre-market 301. We'll talk about AMD and their multiple. Micron almost getting up to 500. I mean, you saw a lot of names really hit their stride yesterday and get some momentum and excitement. Question now is going to be, can we have that continue? And if we can have that continue, I think the market would be very excited. Nike CEO also bought $1 million worth of stock yesterday. So you got Nike, which is down, but it was up a little bit yesterday in the pre-market. All right, so let's get into the different updates we have. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you, everybody, for being here. First, before we get into the macro stuff and different things going on with the war, we have a ton of different stocks that are running pre-market. And so we're going to look into why they're running. HIMS is up 6%. I actually don't know the reason for this because it just went up. So let me pull up and see what we've got for HIMS. HIMS partners with Lilly. Okay. There you go. Lilly is flat. HIMS is getting a 6% move. So you got HIMS going a bit green right there. HIMS and hers enables prescriptions for Zepbound via Lilly Direct Pharmacy, includes access to vials and quick pen delivery services. Customers can use self-pay pricing for GLP-1. Expansion builds on prior Novo Nordisk Wegovy partnership. There you go. That is why HIMS is green right now. Now it's back at the same level it was at 2 days ago, so nothing too crazy in terms of price action, but the fact that it's not red or below the 28 level because of the Amazon news is a good thing. It did spike up to 32.45, so actually hit above those levels that it was at on Monday. Maybe we'll see in the market open if that can break through, and that would be nice. Applied Digital, this one's also up pre-market 8%. They are partnering with a hyperscaler. We don't know which hyperscaler. $7.5 billion data center deal. 300 megawatt lease with a U.S. hyperscaler. The deal is valued at $7.5 billion over 15 years. Supports AI and high-performance computing workloads. The Delta Forge 1 campus spans 430 megawatts across 500 acres. You know, it begs the question, where is IREN's deal? I mean, if Applied Digital, out of all companies, is getting a deal, where is IREN's deal? I feel like it's coming, but when it actually happens, it's going to be a big one because you've had a bunch of CoreWeave ones. You've obviously had a bunch of Nebius ones. You had Cypher and Wolf a couple weeks ago. Now you have Applied Digital signing a $7.5 billion deal. I think a lot of people are saying, where is IREN's $20, $30 billion deal? And I do think it's going to happen. Question is going to be when, and when it does happen, is it with an Anthropic? Is it with an Amazon? You know, how big could that deal end up being? IREN right there, down about 1% pre-market. Applied Digital, that is up 8%. HIMS is up 6%. Lilly is flat. And then you got Oklo, that is up 8% because Oklo has partnered with NVIDIA. Nuclear energy getting a bit more attention over the past couple of weeks. It's been, you know, part of the reason maybe Oklo and SMR have been running is because maybe there were some people that just knew that there was going to be some type of partnership between the two entities, which obviously legitimizes Oklo a lot more if NVIDIA is working with them. NVIDIA and Oklo and Los Alamos National Lab are teaming up on a nuclear fuel validation and AI-driven R&D mission tied to the federal Genesis mission. The work will focus on plutonium-bearing fuels, grid reliability, and using AI models and digital twins to support nuclear-powered AI infrastructure. So this is not a deal with revenue. This is not a deal with some level of like earnings growth on Oklo, but it is an R&D project essentially with NVIDIA, which if you're going to be working with NVIDIA, obviously the street's going to definitely pay attention to you. And in the context of research and development, if this ends up leading to some type of breakthrough in terms of understanding how nuclear energy works in the context of plutonium-bearing fuels, I would imagine that's probably a lot of business that could be going to Oklo, either from the DOE, which we know has a lot of ties to Oklo and has been very vocal on nuclear energy, or NVIDIA themselves contracting more power. I mean, it seems like the bottleneck, based on more of the research that I've been doing, is really not just compute. Obviously, we're compute constrained, but it is power. And whether it's an SMR, an Oklo, even a Chevron or an Exxon or an NextDecade or VG, like, I mean, maybe the thesis really is AI-driven power over a war that creates a supply glut when it comes to oil. And that becomes a lot more of a reason for multiple expansion on those. Oklo up 8%. It was up 15% yesterday. Kind of feels like maybe someone knew that you were going to get a little bit more momentum right there. And then you have Mobileye, which is up 14% on an earnings beat. So those are your top movers of the pre-market. Mobileye up 14% on the earnings. Oklo up 8%. NVIDIA partnership. APLD $7.5 billion 15-year deal with a hyperscaler. We don't know the name of the hyperscaler. And then HIMS up 6% with a partnership with Lilly. Andrew Dudum just tweeted, as of this morning, providers on our platform can now send prescriptions of Zepbound Vitals and QuickPen and access self-pay pricing with Lilly Direct because of an expansion in our platform's functionality. Okay, not too bad. Got some green. Got some green across the board. Yeah, HIMS was up 11%. Let's see when the market opens if that can go further. But you've got some of those names now going green. QuantumScape is up 30%. I mean, they I don't know if you want to say the earnings was decent because like they didn't have any revenue, but I think they beat on EPS by 5%. And some of these companies, right, it really doesn't matter their earnings. It matters, are they making progress when it comes to the things that they're producing? In this case, solid state batteries. So, I mean, yeah, there you go. QuantumScape up 30%. I guess I didn't listen to the call, but we did cover the numbers yesterday. Seems like the CEO painted a really nice picture about what's going on and their progress on batteries, and the market is rewarding them right here. Again, small company, $4.5 billion, no revenue, 600 million shares outstanding. I'll check the short float. That could also potentially be a candidate for a squeeze, as that one is surging 30% right here pre-market. Yeah, short float's 20%. I mean, that could definitely be a short squeeze candidate. We got some Lyft news. Lyft has agreed to acquire Get's British business and is thereby positioning itself as the leading app for London taxis. So all my Brits, have you taken a Get before? G-E-T-T? Is that the British version of Uber? London's black taxi app. Okay, Lyft is buying Get. Lyft has agreed to acquire Get's United Kingdom business. Get is one of London's leading black cab apps with strong enterprise business and B2B relationships and brings together the majority of Greater London's registered black cab drivers. With Get, Lyft is expanding its coverage. This advances Lyft's sustainable growth strategy while expanding out in more locations. No one uses it. Well, I guess someone uses it for Lyft to be buying it. It seems like it's more for enterprise B2B relationships and people that pre-book the cars for like a year versus someone on the street who's trying to get from point A to point B. But there you go. Okay, so that's with Lyft. And then last piece of news on an individual stock, and then we'll get into the macro stuff. Tilray, I believe, is up right here. Tilray up 8%. Tilray Brands position for U.S. expansion amid historic cannabis rescheduling. Tilray Medical to accelerate U.S. medical cannabis. So it looks like Trump is going to be potentially legalizing cannabis at a much stronger level, moving medical marijuana to Schedule 3, providing a bunch of tax relief for cannabis businesses, and opens the door to expanded research and medical use. So the weed stocks might end up being back. MSOS, that is also up 10% pre-market. That's an ETF of pure cannabis. That was up 19% yesterday. So we're talking about a 30% move in 2 days on MSOS based on this potential scheduling of cannabis as a Schedule 3 drug from Trump later today. Also, we have a lot of different stocks moving. Yes, I saw the SMCI news this morning. Oracle is basically flagging concerns around their NVIDIA B200 inventory and essentially doesn't want to work with SMCI. So the actual quote right here is, SMCI shares are under pressure after Bluefin said supply chain checks suggest Oracle canceled 300 to 400 GB300 NVL72 racks from Supermicro, equivalent to about 1.4 billion at about 3.5 million per rack, with B200 inventory concerns also weighing. And this is part of the reason why Dell gets all this love. I mean, Dell right here basically at all-time highs at 214. The server rack business is competitive. It is essentially a commodity, but if you're able to win business, especially from the hyperscalers, which Oracle theoretically, when it comes to compute, is a hyperscaler, you're able to get a lot more volume. Dell beat earnings last quarter by 17 billion when it came to revenue. SMCI is under a lot of different legal issues. SMCI right there down 9% based on potentially missing that Oracle contract. And I wonder if they give that server demand to Dell or HP. And if they do give it to Dell, maybe that's part of the reason why Dell's had this big of a run from 200 to 215 over the past couple of days as well. All right, so those are your stocks moving pre-market. Tilray on cannabis news, SMCI on Oracle news, Lyft on an acquisition, QuantumScape on earnings, Mobileye on earnings, Oklo on NVIDIA partnership, and then Applied Digital on the $7.5 billion hyperscaler partnership, HIMS with their partnership with Lilly. Got a bunch of different names moving here in the pre-market. Hopefully the broader S&P can go green when the market opens. So what happened yesterday? Before we talk about Tesla and ServiceNow, last night, if you were paying attention to your portfolio, which hopefully you weren't and you were just doing something else, but all of us are crackheads when it comes to staring at our portfolios and looking at our notifications, you might have seen an ugly decline in the futures and a spike up on crude. Crude hit 97 and you had the S&P futures go down to 705. Why? Well, there was a report that Iran is being attacked. Oil pumped 10% in a minute. And then a couple minutes later, the report that Iran was being attacked was false. So this was pretty incredible to see, because I think regardless of the report being true or false, which in this case turned out to be false, although in the morning you had some other reports saying that it was true, and then we went back down, and now we're starting to recover in the pre-market. So, I mean, I think it's still up in the air in terms of exactly what happened. Was it manipulation? Kind of feels like someone manipulated the market to be able to either get out of their short position or get out of their long position in the context of oil or equities. But the fact that futures tanked that aggressively on a rumor that the U.S. attacked Iran showed me how susceptible this market, quite frankly, is to an attack. And if we were to flip our entire position and say, forget the negotiations, we're going back to attacking, like, I mean, who knows how low we go? And last night was a real quick sneak peek. And I think, quite frankly, whether it was manipulation or not, I hope Trump took a look at what happened to oil and what happened to stocks, because stocks went down, oils went up. And if the report was actually true, sort of creating the framework to initiate that we are going back into war with Iran, it would not be pretty. And all this momentum that we've added in the market would not be a good thing. So I think if Trump did see that, or his economic advisor saw that, maybe they can let him know, sir, we know exactly what's going to happen. If we don't get a deal, oil's going up, stocks are going down. It's not that much of a surprise, but last night kind of confirmed how ugly it could get. Like within milliseconds, things dropped. And so hopefully that doesn't happen. It was a very convenient rumor. That is correct. But to me, I think it was at least good to see how the market would react on that type of news. And the market did not like it. at all. I mean, 1% down that quickly is scary, just based on the idea of attacking. And then, if the attacks continue, then obviously we're probably going down a lot lower. So hopefully that doesn't happen. We'll have some updates on the Iran war, hopefully later today. We did have one update this morning. Let me just say this real quick, and then we'll talk about Tesla and NVIDIA, or Tesla and ServiceNow. You had a rumor, again, not confirmed by any major sources, but this came out at 7:30, and that's kind of when the market started flipping again. And the rumor was that, let's pull it up right here, negotiations are going to be in line. So this was from Reuters. Iran-U.S. talks in Pakistan may see breakthrough in preparations tonight or tomorrow. Sources, Iran diplomatic notes. That one line at 7:40 was enough to kind of flip us to go more green. And I mean, hopefully that's true, but every day at around that 7:30, 7:50 time frame before the market gets ready to open, you got something out there that gets us a little bit of love. So there you go. Hopefully we'll see if that continues. Yes, Netflix did authorize a $25 billion share repurchase program. Not really making a major move on Netflix stock right here, 94.36, up about 1%. But Netflix, Adobe, and Salesforce now buying $25 billion worth of stock. And I guess you could say they think they're undervalued and cheap at this moment. All right, ServiceNow and Tesla. Let's start with ServiceNow. This is ugly. Down 12%. I don't think it deserves to be down 12% based on the earnings, but nonetheless, this is how the market is thinking of it. The scary part about this is that if it brings back the SaaS apocalypse, which no one wants to see, that's not going to be fun. And I don't think it will. A bunch of the SaaS stocks are down pre-market because of ServiceNow, a Palantir, a CrowdStrike, etc. Ultimately, I think the problem with ServiceNow right here is, once again, so what were the results? They came in line with EPS. They didn't beat on EPS. They beat revenue by 1%. And then they missed on guidance. Now, what was the miss? Street wanted $16 billion. They came in at 15.7. They blamed the Middle East for some headwinds, but maybe they're sandbagging. The point is they had a very lackluster quarter. And because of that lackluster quarter, I think the street was just like, we cannot pay the multiples that we are used to paying, even though the stock is already down 40%, which is why that was scarier last night when it fell another 15%, because the stock's already down so much, even with the 20% recovery from the lows at $80, that for the street to get that upset again, that the quarter was like good, not great, means that if you're a SaaS company, a Salesforce, an Adobe, a Microsoft, a Palantir, an Oracle, an AppLovin, you have to put up serious numbers. And if you don't put up those serious numbers, you're going to get hit. Yes, they just acquired Armis, which is obviously part of the reason why their margins got hit. I mean, these are very basic reasons for why companies might have margins go down or guidance go down in the short term. But nonetheless, the street didn't care. They didn't want any excuses. They were just like, you cannot have this type of a quarter and expect us to buy your stock. In fact, Bill McDermott was pretty upset. This was him in the opening minutes of the call. For those that didn't hear it, over the next 30 seconds, you can kind of tell how pissed off he was when he saw the stock and how he got into the call.
Thank you very much, Darren, and welcome everybody to today's call. There's a lot of noise out there, so let's get straight to the point. Here's the ServiceNow update. We're the AI control tower for business reinvention in the center of a growing 600 billion plus total addressable market. We have a 28 billion RPO business that's growing at 23.5% year over year. The most open enterprise platform that protects customer choice, with active users on our platform continuing to grow, thousands of partnerships around the platform expanding daily.
If you listen further to the call, he starts yelling with his tonality switching on certain words. I mean, literally it was like waking a bunch of people up. I'm like, oh, wow, he just stressed that word in that sentence. And he was pretty pissed. He was upset. He was not happy. Even when he was answering the questions, I went back and listened to it last night. People would ask him a question and he was, not yelling at the analyst, but he was basically trying to tell the analyst that their question has no relevance because this company is still going to be incredibly important and AI is not going to commoditize them. My thoughts on how he talked, and people have heard him talk before, he kind of always sounds like this, is I don't think he really painted a story on the value of ServiceNow. I think he just put a lot of stats together and then threw them at people saying, how could you, implying how could you sell the stock? Look at all the growth that we're having without really giving the broader picture on why AI is not going to commoditize the business, even though that is the terminal message of what he's trying to say. So he was pissed. You could argue he was passionate. That's also fair. And I would be passionate as well if I'm looking at my net worth go down 15% after growing 22%. It's not like they're growing 7% or 8% like Adobe. Like they're growing. They're just not growing in a way that's so massive that, it would be very, very exciting for the street. And, if you're not delivering that type of quarter in this kind of new paradigm for SaaS, I think that's why it's hard to get a multiple on your stock. So regardless, I think the ServiceNow dip will be bought. I don't think it's going to stay at these levels. Maybe it's going to fall a little bit today. Obviously, there's usually a 3-day rule, and it takes some time to kind of see how the stock turns out. But long term, I think this one's going to be okay. The earnings themselves were not bad. They just weren't the type of earnings that beat on every metric that you needed in a world in which Anthropic is growing, 25% week over week. It's hard when ServiceNow is not pulling up those numbers and they're missing on guidance. So we'll see at 9:30 today how many people want to buy the dip. Put in the chat if you're going to be buying the dip on this one. I do think people will step in. I just wonder at what price. And maybe it's 90, maybe it's 85, 80 were the lows. I don't think it's going right back to the lows. If it does, then maybe IGV is going to have a bigger sell-off, which hopefully that doesn't happen. IGV right there down 3% of the pre-market, literally because of ServiceNow. CRM is also down, unfortunately, 5% because I think the street's expecting them to put up a basically type of quarter that ServiceNow put up. And maybe that one's also, going to get hit as well. So you got Salesforce down 5, IGV down 3, Palantir's also getting hit by it, ServiceNow down 12, Microsoft down 2 as well. That stock down 12%. We got some breaking news from the New York Times right here. Wow. The Ayatollah, the new Ayatollah, the Ayatollah's son, who is now the new Ayatollah, suffered a major lip and face injury in an Israeli attack. He underwent surgery on one of his hands and is recovering slowly. He will need cosmetic surgery, and he has difficulty speaking since his injury. I mean, this is something I think all of us thought happened because he has not been on camera for like 4 weeks. And, they keep putting out these like letters, but obviously people thought he was going to be, like if he had something to say, he would say it in a video. But it looks like the New York Times reporting that he will need cosmetic surgery, and he has had a pretty big attack. Messages reach him written and are delivered to him via a trusted human chain in Iran. Okay, I guess we're going to see. I guess we're going to see what happens there. Again, he has not been on video for the past basically 4 weeks now. He has authorized Revolutionary Guard generals to make decisions due to the difficulty of communicating with them. Well, this also could be part of the reason why it's hard for us to negotiate, because if the Ayatollah is letting the IRGC have a lot more authority here, which again, the IRGC or the president and parliament speaker ultimately default to the supreme leader, then that could be part of the reason why Trump has not been able to easily get the second round of talks if the IRGC is stopping those talks from happening based on whatever authority they have here, or whatever increase of authority they have. Again, this is reporting from the New York Times, might be inaccurate. The guy might not be even alive right now. We don't fully know, but that's what they are reporting. And we'll see if the White House comments on this and if they can give any update on what they think is playing out right now. I mean, yeah, there is a world in which he's not even alive anymore. So that's something we're going to have to see. I wonder if the White House will give us any updates on that. But if he's authorizing the Revolutionary Guard generals to make decisions, I mean, that's an easy way for the IRGC to claim they have control, which also could be propaganda because, he might not have authorized them. But if they're claiming that he authorized them, then, at that point, they have this perceived level of power. And we're going to have to see what happens there. Palantir right there down 1.72. ServiceNow still down 12. Netflix up about 1.4 on that news of $25 billion in buybacks. You got Robinhood Ventures up 2.7%. They made a $75 million investment in OpenAI yesterday. That's why they were up 10%. Redwire, that's down 6% after being up 15% yesterday. Where's Rocket Lab? Rocket Lab is slightly down as well. Okay, Tesla. Let's talk about Tesla. So these were really bad earnings. Just like, let's call a spade a spade. Stock's down 3%. Pumped to 406 on some nonsense by the algorithms. And I'm going to explain why the algorithms were nonsense about it. But the stock probably deserves to be down here. Could it recover? Obviously, it probably will recover. It's just, yeah, the numbers weren't the best. Now, I thought the numbers were good when they came out until you look under the hood. So first of all, the headline numbers, they did beat on gross margins. They slightly beat on revenue, and they beat on EPS. So you might think, oh, triple beat, this is a great thing. Then you look into the numbers and say, wait a second, it's not just a triple beat, it's a quadruple beat because they beat on free cash flow. The street expected negative free cash flow, negative 1.8 billion. They came in at positive 1.4 billion. So this is really good. Like Tesla they completely shattered the street's expectations around free cash flow. So they deserve a higher multiple. And then you look under the hood and realize the only reason, and I was like, well, how did the street get it so wrong to expect negative 1.8 billion and they came in at positive 1.4 billion? The only reason they actually had positive free cash flow is because they didn't pay their bills. They are increasing their capex to 25 billion, up from 8.5 billion in 2025, which is bullish because they're spending more money to grow. Like I don't have an issue with them spending more on capex, but they guided for negative free cash flow for the year. And as soon as they said that, the stock really tanked, which begs the question, how did they go positive in Q1, but they're guiding for negative free cash flow for the next 3 quarters? And it's because their accounts receivables went up and their payables went up, and they didn't fully pay their bills in Q1. They're like amortizing the capex expenditure, which is not crazy. A lot of companies do that, but because of them doing that, it made it artificially look like they actually had free cash flow in Q1, which is incorrect. They don't. Like that money, that quote unquote free cash flow is going to pay for their capex. It's just going in Q2 and Q3 and Q4 instead of Q1. But if you attribute it to when it was spent, which was in January, February, and March, theoretically, if they had put it into the Q1 metrics, Tesla would have negative free cash flow. So the street was totally right about that. And I made fun of the street for as soon as the numbers came. I was like, the street is stupid. How like Tesla put a positive free cash flow? The street expected it to be negative. Like the street completely messed up on the project. The street was absolutely right. Tesla just did a little bit of financial engineering, and they obviously made the numbers look a lot better than they were. And then, this is the metric of Tesla. This is the other reason the stock went down. I mean, these are all the Mag 7s. Tesla trades at 360 times earnings. The others are in the 20s and 30s. Like, it is just really hard for a stock to pump heavily when there's no free cash flow. There's not really any significant year-over-year earnings or revenue growth. And then the multiple is disconnected from the other Mag 6 companies, which are growing substantially across the board. So for that reason, yeah, Tesla probably deserves to be down. Also, the call was horrible. I mean, if you guys were with me on the call, it was bad, dude. It seemed like Elon, and the call's been bad for the past 2 years now. And this is not a knock against Elon or anything. It's just, it is what it is, right? He seems disinterested. He didn't really paint an exciting picture. He didn't even talk with any enthusiasm. The guy felt like he wanted to go to sleep. And I get it. He's probably busy as hell trying to get SpaceX to go public. He's probably working 24-hour days. But it did not seem like he wanted to be on that call. And it really did not seem like he had any interest of answering any questions and reiterating the thesis around Optimus or Cybercap or all that stuff. Also, I mean, you had some, based on what Elon said, there were some pseudo delays in terms of the time frame. So Elon essentially said that cybercabs and unsupervised autonomy should happen year end or potentially 2027. A lot of people thought that would happen by H2 of 2026. Cybercab is still on production, but the Optimus cycle and the ability to monetize unsupervised autonomy now is getting forecasted back to 2027. And I think everyone expected it to inevitably be 2027, but Elon reaffirming that, yeah, it's probably not going to be 2026, extending it again another year. That's what also got the street to be like, okay, there probably wasn't any reason for this to pump 4% in the immediate aftermath. Having said that, it's still Tesla. And I think the dip probably will get bought. I don't know when it's going to get bought, but it could get a little ugly today. Numbers weren't the best, but it is Tesla, and Tesla gets the Elon premium. And, the long-term picture is that, and the people that are saying the earnings were bearish because they're spending more on CapEx is just stupid, because the Amazon earnings aren't bearish because they're spending more on CapEx. I mean, Amazon's also going to have negative free cash flow, right? But that CapEx is going to lead to an ROI. Now, the difference between Amazon's CapEx and Tesla's CapEx is that Amazon's CapEx immediately gets the ROI via them being able to sell AWS. Tesla's CapEx is a vision and a future reality into Optimus and FSD and energy that is not really leading to any meaningful ROI right now, which is why I think the street's a little bit more forgiving on the Mag 7 CapEx flows versus Tesla because, it's just not delivering the types of returns that they want to see in the short term. Did we just get another Trump tweet? We just got another Trump tweet. Oh boy, here we go. Is the S&P down before I read it? A little bit of red candle on the S&P 709. Iran is having a very hard time figuring out who their leader is. They just don't know. The infighting is between the hardliners who have been losing badly on the battlefield and the moderates who are not very moderate at all, but gaining respect. It's crazy. We have total control over the Strait of Hormuz. No ship can enter or leave without the approval of the United States Navy. It is sealed up tight until such time as Iran is able to make a deal. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I think Trump is talking about the blockade, not really the Strait of Hormuz, which functionally is the same thing, right? Because if you have ships that leave the Strait of Hormuz, but then you enter the U.S. blockade, then obviously those ships can't continue going further. So that's what he means by having full control, I guess, over the Strait. This is very consistent with the reporting that we've talked about over the past couple of weeks, which is that the Iranian factions are very well split. And, we talked about it yesterday. The ball is in Iran's court now. It's not in Trump's court anymore, which is why he's given this indefinite ceasefire. Do we really think he's going to start bombing them after 3 days? No, because even he knows that, A, he doesn't want to bomb them and spike up oil and tank the markets. B, he thinks they're close to a deal, and bombing them would definitely ruin the chance for a deal, but he needs them to deal with their own internal infighting so someone can come to the table and negotiate. And quite frankly, this is probably giving them a lot more leverage because now Trump knows that he needs to make a deal quick, because if he doesn't make a deal at this point, there might not be any chance for a deal if the IRGC continues to gain more control, which is basically who he's referencing right here when he's saying that the hardliners have been losing on the battlefield, but they keep fighting with the moderates. The hardliners are the IRGC. The moderates are the parliament and president representation of the Iranian delegates. So, yeah, that's not good. I mean, it's definitely not good. It's not completely destroying the chance for a deal, right? But if the Iranians can't come to the table because of the infighting and because of IRGC and the parliament president speaker basically fighting for control, and then you have the New York Times, for those that are just joining, that reported that the Ayatollah has given control to the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guards, which again might be fake news because the Ayatollah might be dead. But I mean, if he's not, if he's just seriously injured, then maybe he did give control, or maybe the IRGC is saying that he gave control in order for them to actually get control. Then what is Trump going to do? He doesn't know who he's negotiating with. So for all the people that said, who are we negotiating with? I mean, that question continues to be the question that we have to answer. And obviously the answer to that question was the parliament and president side of the Iranian delegation. But if they don't have the type of control that is needed to get a deal done, this is not the best situation in the world. That also makes sense for why Pakistan, for why JD Vance didn't leave to Pakistan on Monday. I mean, there was no resemblance of a deal. Yeah, market's really getting hit right now. You're seeing a lot of these names starting to go a lot more red. We're gonna have to see if the market can once again ignore this. I don't know. Last night, maybe last night, part of the reason we had that flash spike down is because the market was starting to sense that this deal is not going to easily come to fruition. Where's crude right now? Are we above 93? We are indeed above 93, 93.50 on crude. 93.50 on crude. Game of Thrones in Iran is crazy. Well, look at Microsoft down 3%. Obviously, that's more because of ServiceNow, but NVIDIA 202, at least it's holding the 200s. Palantir down 2%, IGV down 3%, Dell's down 0.2%, ServiceNow still down 14%, Supermicro down 10%. What do we think, guys? What do we think? Where do we think this ends up? I'll do the green or red poll in the chat. It's not good, man. This is we need to freaking know who we're negotiating with and move on from here. Now, at the end of the day, look, I don't think the IRGC can take full control over 92 million people. I think that's going to get a lot of people in Iran upset. I also think if they close the Strait of Hormuz indefinitely, their revenue sources are going to be non-existent. And then people, if they don't have food, don't have a functioning economy, can't pay their bills, their rent, you're going to have a lot more unrest in the region, which is obviously not something I think the IRGC can fully control. And more likely than not, you want some level of stability and peace. And I would imagine they come back to the table with a deal. But right now, it's up in the air, and we'll see if the market fully reacts to that. S&P 709.50. So far, market's not reacting as aggressively. Individual stocks are red. The broader S&P is not even where it was last night, where we hit 704 in the futures. So let's see when the market opens if this gets dumped, or if once again the market is able to kind of ignore this here. Again, Trump just tweeting, Iran is having a very hard time figuring out who their leader is. They just don't know. The Strait of Hormuz is sealed up tight until such time as Iran is able to make a deal. Thank you for your attention to this matter. All right, that's what we got from Donnie T. That is what we got from Donnie T. Let's look at some other macro news, and then we will get into this market open in the next 8 minutes. Do you have any thoughts on this new fund Naval is launching? Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, it's a U.S. retail fund. A lot of these people are, whether it's Robinhood Ventures, VCX, a lot of these people are launching funds to get access to public market or private market stocks. I think there's still public market companies that are meaningfully discounted. So I don't think people have to rush in to buy OpenAI if Meta still trades at 25 times earnings, right? So I think it's cool, but it really is only, you don't have to be accredited, $500 minimum. So obviously it's easy for a lot of retail to get participation, but if it's not to the best companies in the world, which I think right now they just have OpenAI, SpaceX, and Databricks, then, which are good companies. It's just, again, the valuations are up there. Then there's other opportunities right now as well. Oklo, again, up because of NVIDIA and that partnership. Oklo right there, up about 8.2%. We did have some jobs data. That is correct. U.S. jobless claims came in at 214,000. The estimate was 210,000. So a little bit of a miss on the jobs data. Not the worst thing in the world. Again, very far from recessionary levels. You need to be closing in on 275 to 300,000 for jobless claims. We're going to get PMI at 945. We'll see how the market reacts to that. So that'll happen in about an hour. And then we'll see what we have on PMI. But as of now, jobless data, not too bad. I don't think we get jolts today. We get jolts in a couple weeks. So we're not going to be getting jolts today, but we'll see what the job openings are looking like in a few weeks. All right, some macro stuff. So first of all, take a look at this. EPS estimates. Over the past 15 years, analysts have revised their EPS estimates down by an average of 2% between January and April. 2026 is a different story. Analysts have increased by about 7% their EPS estimates. This is really important. For the past 14 years, between January and April, analysts have revised down on average 2% their EPS estimates. 2026, they've revised it up by 7%. Why does that matter? That means there are high expectations for earnings growth. This is honestly, this chart right here is the reason the market is pumping. Now, hopefully the Iran stuff doesn't get the market to dump, but earnings estimates going up and then companies matching those earnings estimates is the reason why we are up. And the more companies that continue to beat and raise, which most companies have so far, the better it is. American Express, they beat by 7% on EPS, beat by 2% on revenue, 428 versus 399, 18.9 versus 18.6. EPS up 18% year over year, revenues up 11% year over year. Then you had American Airlines, which reduced their full year guidance, just like United, because of oil prices, but they did beat by 13% on EPS. EPS is up 32% year over year, beat by 1% on revenue as well. So you are getting these companies to still beat. Yes, Micron led a lot of that earnings revision, but it's not only Micron. So if it was just Micron, I would imagine the aggregate index wouldn't go up by 7% in terms of EPS projections. It's the Broadcoms of the world, the SanDisks of the world, the NVIDIAs of the world, the AMDs. Like, the market still feels those companies. Obviously, the Mag 7s will beat and raise. And, they also have a boost. They have a lot of these IPOs that are going to happen, Anthropic and OpenAI, which is going to create a massive EPS revision and SpaceX for Google and Amazon, which are heavy holders of those stocks, but also big components of the broader S&P. And so that will be important for them if they can continue to grow. And obviously, AI as a tailwind should continue to get the street to grow. Speaking of AMD, take a look at this. AMD now trades at a NTM PE multiple, next 12 months multiple, that is 2x bigger than NVIDIA's. AMD is trading at 46 times. NVIDIA is trading at 23 times. So AMD at 300 is incredible. But I think some people are going to start asking the question, is AMD the buy right here, or is NVIDIA the buy in the context of multiple expansion from the levels it's at? I mean, AMD got to $300 stock. I think if you hold AMD this year, you should be pretty happy. NVIDIA has been relatively flat compared to AMD in terms of its momentum. And I think if AMD can even hold 300, that would be a good thing. But it's basically a $500 billion company right here. And now the question is going to be, can it go higher? Now, the sort of number one reason I would point to why AMD theoretically could be a better buy than NVIDIA right here, even if NVIDIA is cheaper and is growing faster, is the CPU shortage. And Jensen has made it very clear that that CPU shortage is an issue. That is why Intel has been re-rated. That is why I think AMD has been re-rated even more besides its GPU growth. Both of those put together, along with NVIDIA and Broadcom's custom ASIC growth, I mean, all of these sectors, all of these stocks in this broader SMH sector, which SMH, again, all-time highs as of yesterday, 483, that should be bullish for the broader market. AMD is 3x server growth over next year. Will NVIDIA? Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, look, you've got more growth on different sectors. Now, obviously, the aggregate level of dollars that NVIDIA is bringing in is a bit different. NVIDIA is growing top line at 81%. AMD is obviously growing at 35%. But those different sectors that are growing, the subsidiaries of the company, like servers, I think that's probably the reason why this stock is pumping, and that's why it's holding that $300 level. And let's see if it can expand above 300 today. I think it got to 304 yesterday. I mean, if it can start normalizing with a 3 handle, just like NVIDIA trying to normalize with a 2 handle, that would also be very nice for these chip stocks. ServiceNow, we talked about it in the morning, still down 14. Wow, it's dumping even further. 87. If it goes below 87, it's at 87.60. That'll be lower than where it was last night. 2 minutes until the market opens. Yeah, lower than 87 will officially be lower than last night's dump. And we're going to see how this ends up turning out. Fun Extreme, thanks for the super chat. Would you buy the dip on Netflix? No. I think the dip was at $70, not at 94. Do I think 94 is probably an area where people can nibble? Yeah. But I think you have to ask yourself, where's the growth coming from Netflix? Because that quarter, we didn't see any growth at all. So if you're buying, I mean, there's just way too, like Nike. Why? Like the Nike CEO has to buy $1 million of his stock, but Nike still trades at 30 times earnings. Meta trades at 24 times earnings, and Meta is growing 33%. Nike is growing negative 2%. Like I kind of see the same thing with Netflix. They're just not growing like the other tech companies. So what's the logic behind buying them after the pump from 70, which is really when it was time to take advantage of the dip? So I would stay away from Netflix, but I could obviously see it getting back to a higher level. Tesla right here down 3%. ServiceNow down 15. All right, we got a minute until the market opens. Let's see what happens right here on Tesla and ServiceNow. These are going to be very important stocks that define the rest of the morning. Again, the major macro update today is that Trump tweeted that we don't know who we're working with in Iran. And until we get a better understanding of if the IRGC has control or if the president and parliament speaker have control, we have an indefinite ceasefire with no chance for a deal anytime soon. Hopefully throughout the day, we'll get some updates on that. But if we don't, then obviously we are going to be in the unknown right here. And we're going to have to see how this ends up playing out. ServiceNow and Tesla, those are on deck. It's time to see if the market's ready to buy that dip or if we're going to see these stocks continue to take a dump. ServiceNow losing 87 right there before the open. Thursday, April 23rd, the stock market is now open. Wake your ass up. Let's get into it. ServiceNow touched 85.90 right before the open. Let's see, 89.50. You got to bounce from 85 to 89. Let's see if that can get you into the 90s. And if maybe this one is able to hold on. Nike is down 0.13%. NVIDIA, 202. That's basically flat. SPY, flat. SPY's not that bad. Oh, my goodness, Tesla. I hope she doesn't lose 370, but that's pretty ugly right there. 371 on Tesla. Palantir down 2% because of ServiceNow. Dell down 0.5%. SMCI down 9%. APLD up 10% on a $7.5 billion deal. That one makes sense. Getting some love. 15 years with a hyperscaler. That's up. IREN almost 50, 49. They didn't let it get to 50 last time. Maybe pumping off the expectation that they're going to get a deal next after APLD. HIMS, partnership with Lilly, that's green. Micron, that's up down 1.3%. It was up 10% yesterday. ServiceNow still down 15. ServiceNow still down 15. Oklo, partnership with NVIDIA, that's up 9.3%. Meta, They're taking Meta down. Not sure why. Meta below 670. S&P almost back to 710. Kind of ignoring some of these headlines about the Iranian war. Broadcom 421. That's flat. Newsmax, if you bought it at $10 yesterday, it's at $8.90. Actually hit $11 yesterday. That's down 3.5%. BlackBerry's down 2.6%. UNH 356. That's holding on to its green. Oracle, which was up 10% yesterday. Oracle down 5% today. 178 on Oracle as that one goes red. Zeta's down 4%. All of SAS is probably getting hit. Yep. CrowdStrike down 4. Zscaler down 4. Intuit down 6. ServiceNow down 15. Oracle down 4. Snowflake down 7. SaaS Apocalypse 4.0, baby. We experienced it 3 times. Looks like we have to go through it again. I mean, these stocks are not down 1 to 2%. The average SaaS stock right now is down about 5 to 7%, which reminds me of April 13th when this thing got ugly. Now, these stocks are a lot higher than they were on April 13th, but still, they're down. ServiceNow, 15%. Zscaler, down 5. Salesforce, down 7. Street doesn't care. Street does not care about any level of growth that they put up. Adobe down 5.68% as well. Tesla is 376. All right, you got to bounce from 371. Nvidia holding on to 200. Netflix 94.36, $25 billion buyback. They initiated today. Intel 67. That's up 2.7. Intuit also getting hit, down 7%. Google, did we get a pump? We got the 340s finally. It's been taking a minute. Google had a big event yesterday, had a bunch of announcements, so makes sense. Street's giving them a little bit of love. 341 on the Googs. Iran, can you give us 50? She's trying. There is no reason for Iran to pump, but I think APLD getting a big deal is signaling that Iran's time is coming soon. And hopefully that would be good. Bloom Energy, 232. That's up 1.2% as that is green. Nokia, I believe, had earnings today, right? Nokia up 9%. Obviously, they have that NVIDIA investment that has been helping them out a lot from 3 months ago. They were $7 when NVIDIA invested. And now they are $10.70 right here. SK Hynix, yes, they had a great earnings. They crushed it. EWI, South Korea, which owns a lot of SK Hynix, that is down 1.26%, but basically at all-time highs. SK Hynix proved that Micron probably should be a $1 trillion company. If you even take half of the multiple on the Max 7s and give them to Micron, so take 50% of the aggregate multiple and put it on Micron, it would be a $1,300 stock, which would be well over a $1 trillion market cap. Now, the reason they don't get those crazy multiples is because the cyclical nature of memory. Question is that cyclical nature lazy analysis when thinking of Micron? And I think for some people, who own the stock and continue to buy it, they believe that it's cyclical, but it's not as cyclical as people think. And that's why it deserves a higher premium. IGV down 4%. Down 4%. Yes, Texas Instruments also great quarter. They beat on earnings, they beat on EPS, they beat on revenue, they beat on guidance, beat on gross margins, 14.4% up. That's green, $246 billion company. Why is FCX down 12%? What is going on with copper today? That is a copper miner, if I'm not wrong, 12% down. I guess their earnings weren't the best. I'll check their numbers in a second. That's not good for copper in general. American Airlines, they beat on the top and the bottom, but they reduced their guidance. That's why that stock is up 3.69% with those beats. But again, the guidance lowering was consistent with other airlines like United. AppLovin is this thing in the low 400s, 461. Okay, so April 13th, this thing was 380. So though it's down 5%, it is up materially from the last SaaS apocalypse. It's funny that the SaaS apocalypse this time didn't happen because of Anthropic. It happened because of ServiceNow's lackluster numbers. Like that was it. You can't even blame Anthropic today. It's really just ServiceNow didn't put up. It's not like they put up bad numbers. They just didn't put up phenomenal numbers. And I guess that's where the bar is now. If you're a SaaS company, you have to put up those types of numbers. 87.68. Nothing in terms of momentum you're seeing on ServiceNow. Micron 476. That's down to Google just below 340. AMD, we're holding on to 300. 304. 304. Intel and AMD both moving together. Bloom Energy as well. Moving green. I mean, it's nice to see some of these pockets of green hold on, right? It's not like a broad-based drawdown. It's different sectors. Even the S&P barely affected. 709.74. I mean, that's nothing today. Down $1. Palantir obviously just falling in sympathy with ServiceNow, which is very annoying, but it is what it is. And so are the other SaaS companies. HIM's right there, losing a lot of its pump. It was up 9%. Now it's up 4%. Based on that Lilly partnership, you're not seeing too much. Marvell, are we green? Marvell just doesn't stop. 3% on Marvell every day. It looks like this thing is up another 2 to 3%. Marvell announced that they acquired a company yesterday, Polariton, a developer of high-speed, low-power plasmonics-based silicon photonics devices. Terms of the deal were not disclosed. That was last night. Looks like the street's pricing that in today. You know, when Credo acquired a $750 million photonics company, a lot of these companies now getting into photonics, their stock pumped 20%. So the street is happy with these acquisitions more than they are upset that these companies are doing it. Is Oracle SaaS? Oracle is technically SaaS. That is correct. Unfortunately, Oracle is in the IGV. And even though it shouldn't be SaaS, it is SaaS. So the top 10 holdings of IGV, these are why these stocks are down today, even though they've done nothing to deserve it. Microsoft, Palantir, Oracle, Salesforce, Palo Alto, Intuit, AppLovin, ServiceNow, Adobe. So when one of these companies has a crappy earnings, all of them get the pain of it because the IGV itself gets sold off. Tesla, 380. Okay, bulls are stepping in. They're not letting her go that much lower. Bounced off 371. This thing was 404 within minutes after reporting. And then Elon started talking and it went down. And I don't even think it was Elon's fault when he was talking. It's just like they started answering questions and explaining like that, you know, the numbers aren't as good as they initially thought or that the street thought. And the stock started taking a little bit of a turn right there. Netflix still green. Was that really crappy? No, I don't think ServiceNow's earnings were crappy. It's just they weren't like they weren't Bill McDermott dropping the mic. You know, they weren't like a read 'em and weep type of earnings. And I feel like that's what when Anthropic's growing the way they're growing, and the street's already questioning the narrative on software, if you don't put up those types of numbers, which I only think there's a couple companies capable of putting up those numbers in SaaS. Oracle, AppLovin, Palantir, and Microsoft. I think those are the only 4 companies that can realistically put up those types of numbers. The rest of them, you know, Salesforce is not going to put up those types of numbers. So that's why it's down 7%, because I think the street was just reminded, okay, if ServiceNow can't do it, Salesforce is not going to do it. And maybe that's why that stock is down. Zeta, I do think can do it, but Zeta is a very small company. You know, like I hate even putting them in this bucket. They're not even in the IGV. They're a $4 billion company, you know? So they get hit with software, but they also are actually growing 34%, profitable, and you know they're not a $50-70 billion company. Like the upside is there if they can prove the growth. And for 18 quarters, they have proved the growth. CoreWeave going green. CoreWeave still holding on. That is up. Yeah, the cannabis stocks are pumping because it looks like marijuana is going to be rescheduled as a Schedule 3 drug today. Well, MOS, it was up 9, now it's up 1. So some of that pump is starting to fade. Tilray was up 15. Now it's only up 4. So you have some people taking profits. AMD, are we going for 305? We did touch 305. We did touch it. ARM back to 200. This was kind of inevitable. It was making a $10 move every other week for the past couple of weeks. There you go. Officially 200 on ARM. Last time it was here was about a year and a half ago, 2024. And then it fell all the way to 87. Now it's right back to 200. On semi, this one has ties to Marvell and ARM. Look at that, 8%. That one's making a big move today. Poet getting the dump. Not really a dump. Down 4% is not a dump, but it is up like 70% in the past week. Car, is this down? Wow, 18%. 362, it's halted. There is a company called Fugazi Research. That is a hell of a name for an investment research fund. But Fugazi Research says we think you should short car. Well, no shit. Thanks for letting your clients know after it falls from 800 to 360. Very timely analysis on shorting car. It's so funny. It's like after the move happens, these funds want to come out with the real. Like if you think it's a good short, it's like, well, it's already fallen $500 in the past 24 hours. Could have said that 2 days ago. Fugazi, who names their fund Fugazi Research? That's a real fund. I'm looking at the real report right now. The company generated about 56 cents in operating earnings for every dollar of interest owned, highlighting that it no longer generates sufficient earnings to cover its interest burden. Okay. Salesforce down 7, Palantir down 2, Rocket Lab down 2. Amazon actually flipping green today. One of the Max 7s that's holding on. You should have shorted. Thank me later. There should be a fund that literally messages their clients after a move has happened and is like, yeah, you should have done that. Thanks for paying me. That's hilarious. Bloom Energy up 3%. Up 3%. SoFi, are we selling off? SoFi cannot hold on to 19. Hoodie stuck at 87. Zeta down 5. Keel, which used to be Bitfarms, that's up 6% today, probably on APLD. Apple 274. At least that's green. SPY's about to flip green, folks. Oh my goodness. SPY's about to flip green, which would be very encouraging, even though software is red today. Reminds me of April 13th. Software was red, but SPY was green, and tech led the way. AMD still holding to 304. Marvell up 3. Credo up a little bit as well. Micron getting hit down 2%. Car still halted. We'll see when it gets unhalted. Bloom Energy at all-time highs. Someone just bought $2 million worth of Amazon and Microsoft OTM calls, looking at the option flow. Strike on Microsoft 450, expiring June. Strike on Amazon 270, expiring May 15th. Okay, so you're having some bullish option flow come in. I think Microsoft on this dip is probably a buy. Same thing with Oracle and Palantir, because they don't deserve to be down because of ServiceNow. Adobe and Salesforce, I don't know. Adobe down 7. This thing was 260 yesterday, 236. And then Salesforce down 8. Now still down 15. Is anyone buying the IGV dip or any component in IGV? Is anyone buying it? Oh, wow. We hit 203 on NVIDIA. Huh. I think we're seeing an IGV to SMH rotation again today, which I don't mind. I mean, it would hurt Palantir in the short term, but then when Palantir delivers earnings, I think they'll recover. But my semi stocks will go green today, and I don't have a ton of software names, so it wouldn't be the craziest. I think a lot of people wouldn't. I mean, if they take NVIDIA and AMD to further all-time highs and sell off ServiceNow, it's like, all right, whatever. Get the semis pumping. I see a couple people saying they bought it. What about IBM? I still don't know why IBM's down 10%. I really didn't have a chance to go through their quarter last night. I think they missed on gross margins and guidance, but it wasn't like a dramatic miss. I just think it was kind of like ServiceNow. It wasn't one of those quarters where drop the mic, like we're here to stay, we're growing like crazy. But I've got to go deeper into what they messed up on. Down 10% right there for IBM. Street's not liking that either. It's QXO getting set up for a short squeeze. I don't think QXO has a massive short float, does it? QXO 9%. I don't think QXO is super retail friendly either. Like the companies that are getting short squeezed are meme stocks. QXO is not a meme stock, but like your Krispy Kreme, your Newsmax, those are the names that are benefiting from the squeezes, although they're down a lot today. It is a game of musical chairs when you're chasing these. Hims should get a short squeeze, even though I do not think it's a meme stock. Hims now losing 30 again. Hims actually has good fundamentals right here, but that one not able to hold on, and the shorts continue to stay in it. ServiceNow down 14, NVIDIA 202, IBM still down 10.1. Caterpillar, is that green? Caterpillar is green, 2.6%. Yeah, the semis, they're flying. Oracle down 5% because ServiceNow is insane. It makes no sense. I agree with you, but that's exactly what happened on April 13th. IGV took down a lot of names that didn't deserve to be down, and they all got a rebound. So I think today's going to be the same thing. I think if you pick your favorite software name that is not going to have a earnings that is not impressive, it's down today for no reason, then maybe it's not a horrible dip buy right here. Corning, that's up a little bit. AAOI, that's up. Centrus Energy, all your nuclear names getting some love. Oklo continuing to get some love right there, up 11%. Up 11%. Are you buying any software? No. The only two software names I have are Oracle and Palantir. Very little bit of Microsoft. I can't even explain to you what ServiceNow or Salesforce does, dude. I really can't even. I agree they're undervalued. I listened to that call yesterday from Bill McDermott. I still don't know what ServiceNow does. I really have no idea. And I tried to listen. Dude, I don't know what these guys do. I really don't. And I just don't think he painted a picture of making me even have a philosophical understanding. Even if you don't get what Palantir does, Western values, Carpet, you can at least kind of attribute some type of thing to Palantir in terms of a way to associate the company with a different idea or an ideology or a mindset. I can't do that with ServiceNow or Salesforce. They do tickets. Okay, if they do support tickets, no, I don't want to buy a $100 billion company for support tickets. Micron still down 2.6. Micron still down 2.6. Yeah, I whenever you guys say Zeta, when I talk about software, I don't think of Zeta as purely software to me. I think of it as a small cap that's just, I guess it is. I think of it as advertising tech. Now it gets bucketed into the software ecosystem, but I don't really include them in IGV and because they're too small to even be included in IGV. So to me, I think of Zeta as advertising tech, but yes, technically it is software. It's just, to me, it's more ad tech than software to me. NVIDIA, are we going for 204? Are we going for, wow, 203.50? Let's see. We're selling off SAS, going for SMH. ServiceNow, 89. Little bounce off 87. And then where is CAR? Is that still halted? Halted again at 343 from 362. That's down. PMI, we also just got it. 52 versus 50. PMI is a beat. PMI is a beat. 52 versus 50. 52 versus 50. S&P is it green yet? It's very close to going green. I think the street liked it. The Q's at all-time high because of NVIDIA. Let me check resistance at 204, see what we've got. 122,000 shares. 122,000. Amazon, Apple, and NVIDIA helping the SPY right here crack potentially all-time highs, even with the Iran news not being the most positive this morning. Navitas, this thing, now you talk about short squeeze, I think it's this. 25% short. They hired a Broadcom executive. I don't know why the stock keeps pumping every day, but it does. And maybe you've got shorts covering right there, which is getting the street excited. Oklo up 10. Oklo is up 10. This car thing, I wonder if this thing just goes. Okay, unhalted. Let's see if it keeps falling. 328. Honestly, this would be funny to see this thing just go to zero. It really would just be hilarious to see it happen. It never deserved to get this type of a pump. I wonder if retail steps in here and buy. I really hope no one in retail is in this thing. This was an institutional creation. Hopefully it's an institutional dump as well. Jane Street's also in this. They're probably pulling the rug here. Meta's down 1.4. Rocket Lab down 2.3. GEV, that's up 2.8. That's all-time highs. SanDisk, are we going off? SanDisk, 954. That's about to flip green, but it's still red on the day. ASTS is, wow, why is ASTS down 5? I guess space is going down today. Rocket Lab down 2 as well. Is Lunar down? Did ServiceNow take down ASTS? Are these satellites not going to provide service now? Are we just, is ASTS not going to be able to manage their enterprise workflows and file their tickets for their satellites or something? That's annoying. A lot of these going down. PMI again was good. Street liked it. Take a look at PMI real quick, and then we'll get into the other numbers here.
S&P Global, manufacturing service, and the composite. April preliminary. They'll get fine-tuned in a couple of weeks. We're expecting the headline manufacturing number to be around 52 and change. Comes in at 54. That would be the best level since, well, we can go back a bit. May of 22. May of 22. If we look at services, it had a sub-50 reading last month. 49.8. That was the first negative reading under 50 since Jan of 23, and it pops back above 51.3, the best since Feb of this year. And the composite, 52.0, and that is the best since January of this year. All three, of course, now over 50 in expansion mode. All three better than expected, and all three sequentially higher. So we're looking at equities moving up a bit. Interest rates still remain very close to unchanged. You're down 1 basis point against most of the yield curve.
So a decent PMI, but software is taking it today. I mean, Shopify, dude. What did Shopify do to go down 5%? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. They're just collateral damage because of freaking ServiceNow, down 14.5% right here. Newsmax down 14. Once again, musical chairs with these meme stocks. How about Bird? Bird down 6%, below $8. DNUT down 1%, now at $4. Iren could not break through 50, got close but didn't get there. Lulu hired a Nike executive, so that's why Lulu, well, why is Lulu down 11? That was good news yesterday when they hired that executive. The street liked it. It was up after hours. 11%? Why is Lulu down 11? They have earnings today? They didn't have earnings. What is... I guess the street doesn't like Heidi O'Neill to be the next CEO. She spent 26 years at Nike. Dude, maybe the street's like... We don't want anyone from Nike. We saw their stock the past 5 years. Keep the Nike people away from this company. Maybe the street's actually upset about that. Oklo's up 8, Caterpillar's up 3, NVIDIA up half. Texas Instruments is the winner today, up 17, 275 right there. Car halted again. Dude, send this shit to zero. Send it to zero, 313. And the reason I'm saying send it to zero is because this is not a retail-driven trade. I don't want retail to lose money. These are two hedge funds that artificially pumped it up. I mean, if they're taking it to zero, they're taking it to zero. I wonder who's selling, though, because technically they're not supposed to be able to sell if they're insiders and they're in a quiet period. So I wonder if the institutional guys are actually holding the bag on this one and someone else, like a different hedge fund, came in and is manipulating it. The other reason, retail doesn't own that much of it is because it was an expensive stock just by like a numeric. Like when a stock is $5-10, retail can jump in on it. When a stock's $500, $600, you're not going to get that many retail participants buy it. It's just like it's a heavy dollar amount for them to spend as well. So I would imagine this is more institutionally crowded. Shopify now down 6%. Amazon 255. Navitas 1875. It feels like the market is tired after going up 14 days in a row. Do you see upside from here? Any escalation could be a 5% index dump instantly. Yeah, I think any escalation, and we saw last night, could immediately result in a massive reversal for this market. Yeah, I agree with you, about 2 to 5% easily. If we start bombing civilian infrastructure in Iran, it would not be good. Having said that, if we get a deal and earnings continue to crush X software, I think we're going higher. Like, I don't necessarily see us pulling back down to that 6,800 level, which would be your 4 or 5% pullback. Could it happen? Of course it could happen. Sell and may go away might be a thing. But on one tweet where we announce a deal or some type of chance for broader negotiations, I think the market flips because it's been ready to flip every time we get a piece of good news. And quite frankly, we got some bad news this morning about Iran. S&P is about to break even for the day, which means the market once again continues to believe until they have a real reason not to believe that this Iran war is going to be over with. Having said that, I don't think you have to go crazy buying into this market because if you bought any of the dip over the past 3 weeks, Like you can kind of sit back and just relax. You don't have to buy Rocket Lab at 88 when it was stuck below 60 for 2 weeks. And maybe buying it at 88 is not the best risk reward, obviously, right? Maybe buying Micron at 500, even with its multiple, is not the best risk reward when it's up from 300. Same thing with Google, 270 to 340. Like, is Google a buy at 340 for the long term? Yeah, but is it a buy in the short term after a pump from 270? Well, the risk to reward is skewed towards risk versus reward. And I don't think that's too crazy. Tesla, are we at 380 at least? Tesla, 376, still below 380. Yeah, Nebius, right? For all the people that bought the Nebius dip, you don't really have to have FOMO here. And if you didn't buy the Nebius dip, I mean, it is what it is. You missed it, and that's okay. Same thing with me. I didn't go heavy on Nebius, but I'm not chasing it at 160 here. I'm just not doing that. Zeta 17, Marvell 163. Oh my goodness, ServiceNow really messed up the day. And I don't even want to blame them in particular because I feel like this is a very aggressive move for the earnings they put up, but nonetheless, the market's not happy with it. Amazon, okay, you guys are saying Amazon's pumping. I haven't looked at Amazon. 5 of you just said Amazon's pumping. When I click on Amazon, I hope this is not 0.09%, okay? I haven't looked at it. I'm just looking at the chat. Here we go, Amazon. Wow. 0.15%. 30 cents on Amazon. You know, it's time to back up the truck. It's time to really make sure that our bags are loaded with Amazon as it continues to pump. As it continues to freaking pump. There you go, Amazon. 0.03% now. Can we please say pumping on at least 1% or more? Like that's my threshold. My bar is so low, 1%. I'm not even saying 2 or 3%. Realistically, a pump is at least, I would say, 4 to 5%. But just give me 1% before you guys say it's pumping. And then I check it, and I see a 15-cent increase. Caterpillar, that one's actually pumping, 3%. Oracle dumping. Okay, Oracle is actually dumping. 6% is nasty there. Car 307. This is about to get halted for the 5th time. It's about to get halted for the 5th time. Is UPS pumping? UPS up 1.63%. Oh my gosh, dude. Car and software. That's the story for the day. Car and software is the story of the day. Car 310 down 30%. Palantir is dumping, unfortunately. That is a dump. Yeah, let's reserve the dumping for at least 1% down too. Even though realistically it should be 4 to 5. But yeah, what's Palantir going to do? ServiceNow messed it up. As soon as ServiceNow reported those numbers last night, I knew Palantir was going to get hit because like it's part of the index. It's the top holding in IGV. Market, the algos just straight up say software's done. We're selling it off again. And it's going to be up to Palantir on May 4th to put up some really good numbers to shift the narrative like they have to do every time. I believe they will do it again, but it is indeed aggravating every time that happens. Ondas, that's down 2. Aero Environment down 2. I don't know what's going on with SoFi. And the reason that the SoFi thing is confusing is because the banks all did great. Like the banks put up amazing numbers. XLF is doing great. JP Morgan, Bank of America, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, Blackstone. So I don't get why the street's still so bearish on SoFi when they're going to grow faster than all the other banks. So this one is just, it's just confusing. Applied Digital up 11. Up 11. They just hate SoFi. Yeah. And look, and I think Noto's going to crush it again. He's crushed it for the past year and a half. I think he's going to crush it again. I just don't know when the street's going to, give him what he deserves here. His compensation package definitely is out the window. I mean, he needed to get the stock to 35 by now to even have a chance of getting paid heavily. That's just not going to happen. But, hopefully this thing can get back into that $25 range. Why is Microsoft dumping? They are the second largest holding in IGV. Wow, 430 to 417. Microsoft does not deserve to be down 4% because of ServiceNow. It's just not, it just does not deserve that. It just doesn't. So now, if Microsoft puts up earnings that are similar to ServiceNow in terms of very, basically meeting the bare minimum requirement, Microsoft's probably going to go down. If you own a software company, ServiceNow to me was a preview of your future if your company does not completely demolish earnings. Same thing for Palantir, same thing for AppLovin, same thing for Microsoft, same thing for Oracle. If they don't immediately, when those numbers come out, make it obvious they crushed, stock's going down 10%. That's not going to be fun. So you got to be selective with software. Otherwise, the semis are just an easier place to be in. I mean, you don't have to deal with any of these hiccups there. You get most of the inflows. AMD is still holding at 300. How do you feel about rotating from semis to software here? Same thing I said. I think you would have to be selective with the type of rotation. Unless you think IGV is just purely oversold and the software sell-off is stupid, then look, have semis topped? No, but like semis are at an all-time high. Like it would not surprise me if they take a breather. I mean, we're seeing a lot of momentum on the semis. They're up like 30% in the past month. So would a rotation make sense logically? Yeah, but it's also kind of like selling your winners to buy a loser. And then if the loser is a loser for a reason, and the reason is a real reason, not a fake reason, then maybe they keep losing. And then, maybe you give it more upside in the semis. Car, we are under 300. We did hit 297. Look at the volume. The volume is only 4 million shares. This is not retail. If the volume was real here, if this was retail mania, the volume after an hour would be way higher than 3 million shares. These are the toots playing with it. This is not retail. Microsoft lost $118 billion because of ServiceNow today. Incredible. At what point would IGV be too cheap for you to ignore? So IGV bottomed this year at 73.93. I mean, too cheap to ignore. I would imagine this thing would have to get at least below 70, right? 65-ish for the index to really provide deep value. But unfortunately, Palantir would probably be back at 120. Oracle would be back at 130, probably lower than that. Microsoft potentially might get back into those 360, 370. Like if that does happen, we're talking about, and I wouldn't buy IGV. I would just buy Palantir, or I would buy Microsoft, or I would buy Oracle. Like I would buy individual software names versus the index if it got that bad. But it's still a long way to go before it gets that bad. CAR 291. HIMS gave the entire pump back. HIMS goes red. Citron Research says INFQ is the better quantum buy inflection than Rigetti. Okay, so Citron Research says go long INFQ, go short Rigetti in the quantum space. Financial Times, U.S. accuses China of theft of AI technology. U.S. to explore ways to hold foreign actors accountable. Okay. I don't know if that's super breaking news. I think we've been accusing China of that for a while. AMD 303. But there's your headline right there. Is CAR halted again? CAR is halted again at 291. 291. All right. Market's really going in a lot of different directions today. Trying to figure out how this is playing out. Let's get a little bit more coverage on these jobless claims, and then we'll keep going from there.
Claims are uneventful. We haven't really seen any big spike up. If you worried about corporations pulling back and getting nervous, you would see a spike in jobless claims, Americans filing for unemployment benefits. But what we've seen, we're on trend here. 214,000. It was a little higher than the 210,000 estimates, but it's right in line with what we have been seeing lately, especially on jobless claims. If you want to make a case for the economy doing well, being resilient, and the job market not being a problem, you look at the weekly jobless claims. These are continuing claims, those that are more longer term, continuing to file unemployment claims. And again, they've been a little.
Guys, something is pumping that we have never looked at today. Thank you, River HM, for highlighting that in the chat. I didn't even know this was a public company. Dr. Pepper, 7% today. Keurig Dr. Pepper. This company sells Snapple, Canada Dry, Dr. Pepper, and the Keurig coffee system. I had no idea Keurig Dr. Pepper was the merger between traditional soda brands and then the Keurig coffee system business. And the proper name for the other company is Dr. Pepper Snapple Group's portfolio. Wow. $38 billion company. You learn something new every day covering the markets. There you go. Coffee and Dr. Pepper. Revenue and earnings beat expectations as strong sales of cold beverages and international markets offset a decline in coffee. KDP, there you go. It's a popular paying the dividend. What's the dividend yield? 3%. How much is it up year to date? I didn't know Snapple and Dr. Pepper was public. It's up 3% this year with a 3% divvy. It hasn't made a massive move, but I don't think I've drank Dr. Pepper in a decade. I have not. I mean, it's a good drink. I've had it before, but it's been a while since I've had it. Palantir getting destroyed because of ServiceNow. ServiceNow down 16%. This is actually scary if you own a software name and you're not confident they're going to demolish earnings. Like if you really don't think they're going to crush earnings, this is the future. And that's where I think a reevaluation of whatever software name you hold is very important today. Because I don't think it deserves to be down 16%, but Street also doesn't care. They're not willing to give software names a premium when NVIDIA is trading at 23 times. Like they're just not willing to do that. NVIDIA 202.93. Oh, where's Figma? Figma's got to be dead. Figma down 9%. Figma is sad, dude, because this is actually a really good company with an amazing founder. And, unfortunately, they pumped on IPO to like 150. So their stock chart looks horrible, but they never should have been $150. Like that was just nonsense that they pumped that much. They IPO'd at 30. I mean, 30 to 17 is more reasonable than 150 to 17, but fortunately, that's down. App 11, that one's also getting hit as well. There you go. How about Canva, which has been waiting to IPO? Yeah, look, and I'm a big fan of Canva. I use them every day. I don't know if I can buy the Canva IPO anymore. Like, I really thought I could. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm not buying that shit if it ends up going into the software Adobe narrative. Like, no way. I'm not touching it. And if I were them, I would delay the IPO. I would do a tender offer for the employees and say, guys, the market is being stupid. We need to wait until software doesn't. Like, I would literally, if I'm Melanie Perkins, I'm telling the company, if we go public and the stock dumps, you guys are not going to be happy. So I'd let you sell in the private markets. Hopefully there's demand for it. I think their valuation is $50 billion. And then you wait to IPO at a better time. It's just ugly, dude. FCX down 11% right there as well. Zeta down 6. Zeta does not deserve to be down 6. Poet down 14. That pump getting faded. Adobe down 9, bro. 9. This is ugly. Let me pull up. We got to go to the ServiceNow call. I was listening to a little bit of it last night. I'm going to try to find the question specifically where they're asked about AI and see what Bill McDermott says. Okay, so I think it's at 42.53. Let's see if I can pull this up. And let's listen to what he said, because maybe his answers also weren't convincing enough for the street to, get excited about it, which could be something here. Adobe's still down. It's at 42.50. 43.30. Okay, let's see if I can get the exact question right here. Let's see if McDermott gives us an answer.
The plastic part of the stack may actually be less valuable to us, therefore give us more of a discount on that. Would love your perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Gabrielle. The one thing I can tell you from being in the industry for quite some time and running another global corporation that was the biggest in the world, one thing that I've learned is when you innovate on the platform, whatever the platform is, it reinvigorates the core. And when you do smart M&A, it also double down, reinvigorates the core. And if you look at any company of size, scale, and significance, that's always true. So no, we're not getting negotiated down on the core. Actually, we're redoubling our focus on it because that system of record for IT, where we started and founded the company, has now become more important than ever. So there's a higher appreciation for it because of AI, because it's the pivot point by which we extend to all the other functions of a company. It's also the pivot point to our workflow data fabric and the context engine that Amit just discussed. So there is no great autonomous AI platform end to end. There is no great control tower. There is no great workflow data fabric. There is no great integration layer that ties into the hyperscalers, the language models, the systems of record without that unbelievable core that Fred Luddy built into the company 22 years ago. And from that genesis of strength, everything else has been built. So actually, I see the core having a major resurgence as a result of AI. And remember what I said in the script, it's all about also this increase in code and this increase in AI activity. And I'll finish it with Armis. Armis is going to be our Instagram, and I'll tell you why. The number 3 economy in the world is cybercrime. It's $1 trillion a month. We now have a situation where on the IT and the OT landscape of every major corporation, we are managing the agents and the humans, and we are managing the landscape of the threat actors. And if you think about a single intrusion from an AI agent will cost a commercial customer $5 million and a public sector customer 10, you have to look to ServiceNow quickly, and you'll need that core.
What do you guys think? What do you guys think? That was a question on, the specific question was, are you getting negotiated down from your customers based on basically threats of foundation models, commoditizing the cost of business, and do you guys have the same pricing power that you once thought you had? And Bill's answer is no. The core part of ServiceNow, whatever core he's talking about that was developed 20 years ago, is, I guess, the foundational infrastructure that allows their software to be pivotal and hedge against the negotiations when clients try to get them to lower their prices on renewing deals. Also, there's a guy named Amit who works at ServiceNow. That's why he said Amit. I do not work at ServiceNow, but there is a different executive named Amit who works there. SPY is flat, but everything's dumping. Where's the heat map? SPY is flat, but everything's dumping. Oh, we got a growth to value rotation today. There you go. Look at that. Industrials, defensives, real estate, utilities, energy, healthcare. Everything else red. Is Verizon up today? Verizon is... Really? The street's going to give Verizon a 3% move today and take down ServiceNow 15%? No volume either. Where's the volume on SPY? Volume on SPY. Wow, 7 million shares. That is nothing. Where is everybody? Why aren't they playing the game? The game started at 9:30. Why are people not playing anymore? 7 million shares. That's probably why the SPY is unaffected. IGV down 5, Microsoft down 3. Your hedge today are the value stocks. The game is fake. Well, the game is a pseudo Ponzi scheme, so that is fair. ARM is holding. Is AMD holding 300? AMD is thriving. AMD is not dumping. Okay, so software and high beta is dumping, but some of your best semis like an AMD and NVIDIA are holding. And my former employer, UPS, delivering some gains on time. Oracle down, Amazon down, Nebius kind of green. Tesla's ready to lose 370, folks. Ready to lose 370. Are you buying now? No, I'm not buying ServiceNow. I can't do it. I think it's cheap. Don't get me wrong. I just can't do it. I mean, like, if the street's going to be this upset over those types of, what do we think is going to happen in Q2? We think ServiceNow is going to beat by like 20%? No, like it's going to be, they're not going to reaccelerate growth to 35. But this is a very old company that is doing $15 billion in revenue a year. Phenomenal, but they're not going to accelerate. Neither is Salesforce. Neither is Adobe. I'm not saying they're untouchable. I just don't think like they're exciting to buy over stocks that have a higher premium like Palantir and Oracle, but I still do believe are going to put up really good growth, at least growth that the street can be excited about to get their stock to continue having the premium. Rocket Lab getting destroyed. ASTS getting destroyed. Why? Okay, you guys said Bitcoin's pumping. I haven't clicked on Bitcoin. If Bitcoin's up $10, it's not going to be a pump, but let's click on Bitcoin. What do you mean pumping? It's down on the day. It's literally down 0.2%. You guys aren't even hiding it. Well, you're talking about this pump from 77.5 to 77.6 that has happened over the past 2 minutes. Are we seriously saying 77,535 to 77,608 is your pump? We need to establish boundaries here, okay? This is becoming ridiculous. Like genuinely becoming ridiculous. SMH, all-time highs. That's, I guess, what's holding up the SPY. The value stocks and the SMH are holding up SPY. Why is Hood down? Well, everything high beta is getting dumped, so Hood getting dumped with it. And Bitcoin's not really moving that hard. Oh my gosh, ServiceNow ruined our Thursday, bro. Legit ruined our Thursday. They're covering CAR on CNBC. Let's see what they have to say on this one. Wow, 273 CAR getting wrecked. Down more than 50% from yesterday.
Is there news?
No, there's no
in
news.
terms of the
in fact,
upside,
there has been
no.
absolutely no comment from the company whatsoever on all of these moves in its stock price, either or from its control shareholder SRS.
Right.
And again, Pentwater also at roughly 50+% of the company as well. That's how you get to 108%. So nothing, Sarah, has come. What we have seen, obviously, is initially an enormous short squeeze, given that control. But there were 10.5 million shares short, is my understanding yesterday. We'll get a new count after the close tomorrow. Yep. But the borrow, Mike, was not that high, and that may have been one reason why investors were not dissuaded from continuing to say this thing is going to fall.
Well, we had the makings of a squeeze on paper for a while. And what was really fascinating is it took off around the time of the TSA issues at the airports, and people said everyone's going to have to rent cars. So it created this sort of retail storyline that excited, kind of meme trader types, and it followed the meme pattern pretty much. And in fact, it followed the pattern of silver going into its recent highs. I mean, in a sense of just this parabolic.
CAR halted again. I think this is the 7th time today. Tesla loses 370. Which, again, the earnings just, they weren't the best. They weren't the best right here. I think people knew they weren't the best, but then the call really didn't help get people to be super excited. And then ServiceNow, $85, 17%. Stock's down basically $20 billion in a day. This is crazy, dude. Absolutely crazy. I think it's unwarranted. Again, I do not think it deserves to be down 17%, but the reality is the street doesn't care. And the thing about this is, people can say, oh, the street is stupid, the street is dumb about this, but this has happened multiple times now. And so, the market tends to be smarter than what people give it credit for. And, when it learns that it made a mistake, it tends to not make that same mistake again on a specific stock because it learns from, the narratives that get composed around the stock. The market has, quote unquote, made this mistake on ServiceNow 5 times in the past 2 months. And so at some point, it's either another mistake to take it down this much, or there's like something legit that market participants feel about ServiceNow. Remember, the market is just people. So it's like if people are selling this thing right here, and yeah, there's algos there, but like 17% on algos sounds a bit like, maybe. I would say 10% on algos. Like this feels more like people straight up just dumping their shares. Oracle getting hit with it. Palantir getting hit with it. SMH still all-time highs. Microsoft also getting hit with it. Is now going to zero. I don't think it's, again, they do 15 billion in revenue. They're not going to zero. But right now they are far away from where, this was at 103 yesterday. Like that's Broadcom, all-time highs. Like it's almost like people are dumping their service now and just jumping into Broadcom at all-time highs, or AMD or NVIDIA, and saying, we're moving on. Western Digital, all-time highs, 406. That's up 4%. Likely because of those SK Hynix earnings. Seagate Technology, that's up 3%. Is that screen? Amit, based on ServiceNow, do you think Zeta could be next? I think it is contingent. Remember, ServiceNow is not dumping because it's a software company. It's dumping because the earnings were so basic and not exciting and barely came in line with expectations that the street is wondering why they even bought it in the first place. If Zeta, Palantir, AppLovin, all these companies deliver really good earnings, which is my bet, at least those 3 companies along with Oracle and Microsoft, then I don't think they're going to get hit as a software name. Now, if Zeta comes out and barely beats, if Palantir comes out and is, not really accelerating growth, yeah, they're gonna get destroyed. They're gonna get demolished. So that's when you have to make a bet on, if that's going to happen or not. And I don't, because again, there's not a lot of numbers you can point to besides the guidance miss on ServiceNow for why this thing deserves to be down, much less deserves to be down 17%. And the guidance miss was 300 million, 16 billion versus 15.7. Like that's not a 17% drawdown. To me, it's more so the street was expecting like a 7-8% beat on EPS, raising guidance, and they just did none of that, which is what I think Palantir, AppLovin, Zeta hopefully will be able to do. Yeah, we talked about the Nike CEO buying $1 million in stock. I think he's doing it out of desperation. Nike's not cheap. 30 times earnings for a company growing -2%. In what world is that cheap? Someone explain to me how that's cheap. They're growing -2% and you're paying 30 times for that growth. Like he's buying it to try to get the market to buy it, but I don't know. It doesn't make sense. Micron down 2.4, Amazon 255, Nebius 158. Bird, is that still moving? Bird still down 5. Still down 5. Again, I don't think ServiceNow should be trading at these levels. But I also don't know if it is like the most obvious buy the dip. It feels like a more obvious buy the dip than not. And I think you kind of just have to look past sentiment here and just, look, after 17%, is it really going down 30%? Like that's why I think it's more a buy the dip than not, even if I'm not buying it. Like, is it really going to 75, 60 bucks? I don't think so. I would say no. Same thing with Adobe. I don't think it's going to the low 200s. It already hit 229 a couple weeks ago. But the question is, how bad does it get? IGV down 5. Yeah, waiting 3 days is the common practice. Although I do think some people are going to try to snipe the bottom on it. After a 17% decline, I think plenty of people will say, you know what, I'm willing to take a chance on it here. It's not 10%, it's not 15%, it's almost 18% down. it wouldn't be crazy to see people come in and say, let me try a car. 274 halted for the 8th time today. 8th time. Lulu down 12 on hiring a Nike executive. And then the rest of the software is still down. IBM, let's see if we can get coverage on that. Still don't know why that one got hit. Let's take a little bit of a listen there.
In its 2026 guidance, maybe that's the concern. I did catch up with CEO Arvind Krishna. Here's what he told me on what's driving the strength in the businesses, including that key 11% jump in software revenue. He told me, quote, the global economy is very resilient. We see good growth across geographies, and it's across industries as well, the financial industry, government, industrial. What he says is technology is not the place where you are seeing cuts right now, or cost cuts. I asked if there was any impact from the war. He said Saudi Arabia and the UAE actually had their highest growth rates that they've ever had for IBM. They're not going to cut technology. I asked why you didn't raise guidance. Clearly, that was something that I think the market was looking for. He said, given the headwinds out there, I think it's prudent to not raise guidance. My concern, he said, is what happens if the energy crisis causes a slowdown in Europe? We don't see that yet. But I think that that is a cause for concern with such a global business around, European recession type issues. We discussed Claude. Remember that update during the quarter that spooked investors around the mainframe business? He actually said the mainframe business grew 48% in the quarter. It was the strongest mainframe cycle we've ever had. And then this was a little note. We question all the time the value of the AI investments. IBM itself, not just as a provider of enterprise AI, is using AI to become more productive. And they've now had $4.5 billion they quantify since January 2023 of savings from their own sort of AI rollout on the back office and everything else. Just some other highlights from the quarter. Krishna said the consulting business, which has been sort of the weaker part of the business, should get better through the year. He said, we see the demand and we'll continue the signings. And then on quantum, he said that they've made very good progress and that in the next few months, we'll see some interesting use cases. He still thinks 2029 is when we see really quantum used at scale around the enterprise. And he said IBM is going to be first. They're, I guess, experimenting with a few hundred atoms when it comes to using these computers, which is a much more powerful use case than what we've seen.
So that's all very positive. And meanwhile, you have a stock down 9%.
Yeah. I think that, with the Confluent deal, there were some analysts going in who expected a guidance raise, but I mentioned the prudence around the macro situation and just, it's a software business. And even though it's not seeing any sort of deterioration in their margins, their free cash flow continues to come in better than expected, maybe gets swept up when you have big sell days like this.
There's less.
Okay, now Bitcoin getting a bit more of a pump, 77.87. I don't know who's buying Bitcoin, but someone is. It's helping Hoodie. Pakistani diplomat just said there is no talk of canceling negotiations so far, but they are stalled talks. Iran informed us that the siege is the obstacle to its presence at the negotiations. They're talking about the siege of the Iranian ship. There is real stagnation in front of the negotiations. And continuing negotiations requires concessions from America and Iran together. Okay. So same update we got from this morning, which is that both sides basically are stagnated on if they're going to actually negotiate or not. And we don't know when things are going to say. Trump just tweeted, wow, crying Chuck Schumer just said for the whole world to hear that nobody respects Border Patrol or ICE. That is one of the most egregious, incorrect, unpatriotic, and dangerous statements I've ever heard from a quote-unquote professional politician. He must immediately apologize to these great patriots, and I mean now. President Donald Trump. Okay. DJT. Talking about Chuck Schumer right there. ASTS down 5, Rocket Lab down 4, Shopify down 6. SMH still up a little bit. Kinder Morgan, they had a good earnings yesterday. That's down 1.64%. Reddit, also kind of a quasi software name. More ad tech than software, but that's down 3.6%. Adobe still down 7. Dude, ServiceNow still not getting the bounce. It needs to break to 86 for it to be a legit bounce from 84. 84.50. Still stuck down 17.5. Why are the space stocks dumping? You know, I was talking about this with a friend yesterday. If SpaceX IPO is sell the news, Rocket Lab, ASTS, Lunar, they are going down the freaking drain. And everyone needs to understand that if you're long space, including myself. If the SpaceX IPO is a sell the news, there is not really a fundamental reason for Rocket Lab or ASTS to be trading at these multiples. And if you believe otherwise, that's fine. We can have a disagreement on valuation, but I think they've pumped because of SpaceX and the excitement that the street is going to have when a couple $1 trillion of liquidity enters into the market. If it ends up being a bad IPO, aka Elon cannot convince people to buy into the data centers and space narrative, or buying into Cursor as a subsidiary of SpaceX, which to me is very weird, then space is going to dump. And today, maybe the sentiment on SpaceX is a little bit more negative, which is why space is dumping. So I don't know. I think we're going to really need to see a successful IPO. I mean, ASTS literally got FCC approval yesterday and it's down. Like, how does that make sense? I think it really is trading more with sentiment around SpaceX. And sentiment on SpaceX is not good today because Tesla kind of crapped the bed. And then you have this Cursor deal that a lot of people don't know how to make sense of. And then SpaceX, I don't know if we talked about it yesterday, but they released in their 8K that it was a risk factor, which companies have to do. But they basically said our space orbital data center technology might not be commercially viable, which everyone knows, but the company had to, formally admit that it might not work. Warning people, hey, if you buy into our IPO for the space data center stuff, just remember, it might not work. And so I think that's the sentiment issue on space. SOXL, wow, another 7% move today. This is 3x leverage semis. As this continues to go green with the semiconductor, the semi narrative. Okay, now for the people saying Amazon pumping, you're more on the right side, 0.3%. Still not 1%. I don't know if I'll ever get people to give an accurate pump on a 1% move, but at least it's better than 20 cents. We got $1 on Amazon. Got $1 on Amazon there. Nabesis, 161. Nebius up 3%. Nebius holding on like a champ, even in the midst of the sell-off on high beta. APLD as well, still up 14. Car 257, 40% in a day, dude. It was at 850 yesterday. That is quite incredible to witness. NVIDIA 202, AMD, are we at all-time highs? We hit 306. AMD basically 500 billion now in market cap. Yeah, VG is not really getting any meaningful love anymore. I feel like the VG trade is kind of done unless we go back to fighting Iran, which is kind of crazy, dude. $18 at the height of the pain on March 30th is literally when it topped, market bottomed. Like VG has literally been your market top or bottom indicator. And it's still a $30 billion company at $12.50 right here. Where's Oscar today? Oscar 1637, Lemonade 64, that's down 4%. Iran, are we going for 50? Let me check resistance on 50. Every time it gets there, it doesn't follow through. I think it's going up because of APLD. 50 resistance has 48,000 shares. VRT, it seems like it's getting a delayed pump on their earnings because they destroyed earnings. They're at 321. That's another all-time high for VRT. They were down actually on the print. It looks like they're recovering here. This was the labor secretary. I think this is agriculture secretary speaking about the fertilizer issue that we had earlier this morning.
The problem, Madam Secretary. Well, great to be on with you, Stuart. Thank you so much. Yes, we have been every day now for almost 50 days, daily meetings in the White House. I've been meeting with the fertilizer CEOs, small companies and big companies from all over the world. The good news, let me do the good news first, is that because of President Trump's energy independence policy, America has plenty of fertilizer. There are a lot of other countries around the world that do not. The fact that we became an LNG exporter versus a net importer a handful of years ago, again, because of the president's focus, means that America has fertilizer when a lot of the other countries do not because of what's happening over in the Middle East. Having said that, I think that was Steve Moore I heard talking. What he said was correct, that the increase in price has been significant.
The fertilizer increase has also affected inflation. We saw that in the CPI numbers. So, like, the good thing is we have enough American independence in regards to energy to withstand it, but a lot of our allies do not. And the fertilizer stuff is going to have to be resolved over the coming weeks, sooner than later, or else this thing is going to get ugly. Iran, finally, 50. There she goes. And now she's actually moving through 50. Okay, maybe someone thinks a real deal is coming. 50.70, up a nice little 5%. Finally, making a move right here. Low 40s did feel a little bit too hated compared to Nebius. Ended up being a good buy for those that took advantage of it. 50.8. Now they just need to announce a deal and let this thing move. Nebius also 160. Okay, so all the neoclouds are moving. The good thing about Iran is usually when it moves with the neoclouds, it hasn't been able to break above 50 for basically like a month and a half. So at least it's breaking above 50 if all the neoclouds are pumping. CoreWeave should also be up. CoreWeave, first time it saw 120 since October today. As that is great. I don't think Keel got a deal today, but I think all your... Do we have a list for the neoclouds? Let's make a list right now for it. Okay, so we can just check this every day. So neoclouds, we have Nebius, we have Iran, we have CoreWeave, we have Keel, we have Cypher, we have Wolf, we have APLD, we have CleanSpark. I'll put Oracle in there. What else am I missing? Those are the main ones, I believe. Bitcoin trying to go for 78,000. Iran looking for 51. SLNH. I think those are the main ones. Marathon, yeah, I guess we'll put them in there as well. Yeah, all of them getting a move except Oracle. But Oracle, again, it doesn't make sense for the neoclouds to go up, but for Oracle to go down. That's part of the reason why at 130 it was so cheap. So I would imagine this one can maybe get through the software slump and move on. Add HUT. Okay, we'll add HUT to this. Applied Digital, that's up 13 as well. It's up 13 as well. Bloom Energy, all-time highs. Amazon, a little bit away from 258, which is all-time highs, 256.53. Robinhood has received in-principle approval from the Monetary Authority of Singapore to offer brokerage services. Okay, cool. Robinhood moving over to Southeast Asia. They did acquire that brokerage in Indonesia. We haven't really heard an update on that. But hopefully, you know, that could be bullish. Yeah, all of your data center names finally getting moved right. This is a weird market, bro. Software's still dead. Data center's moving up. SPY basically flat, even though there's no volume. ServiceNow still down 17. 16.9, I should say. 16.92. In time for the Singapore meetup. Yes, exactly. Iran 51. Okay, some love on 51 for Iran. I'm holding my Iran for that big deal. Until we get the big deal, I still think it's a hold. And then on the big deal, if there's a major pump, maybe it's a sell that day. Depends on the quality of the deal. But Yeah, maybe that deal is enough to re-rate it and you don't need to sell it because it's made a new normal at hopefully 70 or 80. The problem is, though, they still have a lot of money they could dump on shareholders. We got to remember that. So if we see a dump in the middle of the day, it could be them hitting the ATM. Cost on I rent is 45 for me. 45.20. 51.19 on Iran, up 5.7. Someone said I bought a little service now. If it gives you a pump up to like 87, I think people will step in because they'll think the bottom's in. But we got to see if it gets you there. VG 1250, American Airlines 12, Marvell 162. Let's look at the stock draft today. It's probably ugly. It's really me and Matt going for it. I mean, the next 2 months, it's going to be me and Matt really trying to go for this. Matt's at 36.3. I'm at 34.1. Steve's at 15. He's up 3x on Micron. Tanner's at 8. Unfortunately, Tanner does have service now, so that one's still hurting him. And then Chris is up 12. Chris's biggest pain is Axon, which is also going down today. As that one's green pain. Again, mine is Duolingo, down 80. Matt's biggest loser is Celsius. I still don't get why Celsius has been down. Like, I get Kirkland Energy is a big competitor, but it's almost like the street thinks Celsius is dead because of Costco now. Which feels a bit aggressive. Molina, yeah, they actually had a good earnings, Molina Healthcare. And this makes sense. The CMS rates are up for all the healthcare names. Wow, 50. I don't know it was this good. 15% today. Thought it was up like 7%. Okay, Molina. Makes sense. UNH, all those names doing well. Iran received hard currency payment for Hormuz toll. So they're accepting cash to pass the Strait of Hormuz. I thought it was Bitcoin. I thought it was BTC. I guess not. Nebius 162. Robin at 86. Is there a reason why you talk more about Iran versus APLD? It's because you guys love Iran. I'm sure a bunch of you like APLD, but the Iran cult is different, bro. You guys bring it up every day, so we have to talk about it more than Applied Digital. Also, I think Iran just hasn't made the move this year, whereas APLD, the other ones have, and so people are waiting for that. Pouch, a little bit of green candle to 145. Yeah, on semi, having a great day as well. Nice 8% move right there, as yesterday was also making a move. Nebius 162.35. 162.35. Okay, what other headlines do we have? It seems like the Iran stuff has not messed up the street's perception of at least this bull market. The Reflection CEO is live. Startup worth $25 billion. Let's see if he gives us anything interesting about this AI market right now.
Into sovereign AI deployments. We are thrilled to welcome some new investors onto the cap table, including JP Morgan from their strategic initiative group.
So that's one run by Todd Coombs, I think, isn't it? They
That's correct.
Came over from Berkshire. Yeah.
That's correct.
Why are they involved?
So I think broadly, where we are today is that open intelligence matters both to America as a country and to large enterprises. There is a global AI race happening both among existing AI companies, but also between the US and China. And today, the best open models are coming out of China. And as a result, global AI adoption is actually very much kind of being built on top of Chinese models, including American companies. And that's great, but we wish to build a thriving AI ecosystem that has a lot of competition and a lot of players. And we're building the counterbalance to that, building great open models here in America.
Open model architecture has gotten a lot more important, especially because the Chinese have done a lot of innovation and progress on open source architecture. Obviously, the closed models have still captured the majority of market share and lock in with consumers and enterprises, but there obviously is a big market for people that want to have these open source models running locally on their devices as well. Adobe right there, still down 7. Nike's down 1. Newsmax down 19. That's down. Car 269. 40%. Ugly day. Oh, yeah, we got to put Wolf in that list. Oh, no, we did put Wolf in this list. There you go. That's up 3.6. I don't know what the headline is for the neoclouds today, but they're all going crazy except Oracle, which is fine. Iran trying to go for 52. Yeah, there's no real headline today. I mean, the only headline I'm seeing is CoreWeave has raised nearly $16 billion across debt and equity. The Information did a piece about how much debt they have. Wow, the title is How CoreWeave Seduced the Bond Market. Honestly, it's more NVIDIA than CoreWeave. I think a lot of the reason people give CoreWeave money is because they know NVIDIA is backstopping it. If CoreWeave did not have the relationship they have with NVIDIA, I do not think they would be worth what they're worth today. Oh, that's true. It was the APLD news. Yeah, that's fair. 7.5 billion deal right here probably got the whole street excited. Yeah, that's probably the reason. And Texas Instruments earnings, that was also pretty bullish for the data center space. IGV, are we moving up? Are we moving up? IGV, little bounce, the tiniest of bounces. ServiceNow 84.60 to 85.30. Iran 52. Okay. Now just hit us with that Anthropic deal. Let's go to the moon. Dude, if Nebius gets the Anthropic deal, Nebius is going to $200. If Nebius gets the Anthropic deal, just being associated with Anthropic, it's over. ARM as well, yeah. ARM making a very nice move. 205. Wow, that one's not stopping either. Reports claiming Iran collected Hormuz fees in cryptocurrency are incorrect, as per Iranian state news. Okay, so it looks like they're doing hardline cash. SPY, we turning green? Are we turning green? 9 cents to go green. 9 cents right here. Microsoft, is that up? Microsoft 415 to 4. Okay, so this is where ServiceNow should get a pump. 87.88 would not be crazy, especially if you're scalping it. That would be a good move right there. This is where you would think it happens. Wow, dude, if the S&P goes green after the random 2% move down we had yesterday and the Iranian news this morning with Trump saying that we don't know who we're negotiating with or if they'll come to the table, that would be pretty impressive. There you go, S&P green. 7-11-22. We touched the green. It's not driven by software, but it is green. We're not greeny green yet. We're not greeny green yet. The volume is abysmal though on SPY, dude. We're almost 2 hours in, 10 million shares. Average volume is 98 million. Like, this is going to be a pretty ugly day for volume here. Tesla as well trying to come back. Tesla 373. The White House will announce a drug pricing deal later. Trump will attend a healthcare event at 3 p.m. with Regeneron. Okay, so Trump will be live at 3 p.m., probably talking about Trump RX and the drugs that were. Bill McDermott's on Bloomberg. Let me pull up. Let's see if he's there. He is there. Okay. Let's see if McDermott can get us a pump here.
We're a $15 billion enterprise software company, the fastest to ever get there, growing at more than 20%. We had a beat and raise quarter, and we reiterated our full year guidance. So that's the baseline for the conversation. And we are a growth company, and I'll take the interview any way you want it to go.
Let's talk about geopolitical headwinds. Let's talk about acquisition, integration, expenses. Maybe there's some of the areas that investors and the analysts have said, look, it made for a bit more of a messy quarter than perhaps would have been easier for you to tell the story on. What is the underlying growth rate of AI at the moment, of adoption of the ServiceNow products?
Yeah, what you have to realize is AI is the product. It's the whole platform. So the platform is fully autonomous. So when a customer buys our AI platform, it is enabling every function of their company to be a native AI company. So it's all AI now. And that's another thing. We said we would do in 2026, $1 billion of net new annual contract value on pure AI additive to the platform. Yesterday, we upped it to $1.5 billion, and I think we'll run through that. So if there's anything that the investors wanted, they probably wanted a bigger beat. So we're beating every quarter. Maybe they wanted a bigger beat. And then the second thing is, and it is true, we acquired a couple of companies. So let's talk about that. One was MoveWorks, where in one quarter, we only had in one quarter, we did in one quarter what they never did in a whole year before they became part of ServiceNow. So the go-to-market machine knows how to take great innovation and monetize it. Secondly, we took Veza and Armis. Veza just joined us. Armis just joined us on Monday. So the market might have said, are they doing M&A to cover up for any lack of growth in the core? How could that be true when it wasn't even in the number? And so these companies are fantastic because now you're going to manage the identity of humans and agents, which is really important when you're the rails and rules of every major corporation in the world. You want AI that works with humans and does so in a highly controlled manner. That's Veza. And then Armis is operating technology, where now you're managing all of the IoT of everything, networks, devices, and so forth, to keep these companies highly secure.
Yeah.
As you know better than anybody, Caroline, cybercrime is the third largest economy in the world. It's $1 trillion a month problem. And now we've opened up our TAM to 600 billion TAM. So we're going after the biggest ocean of opportunity we've ever looked at. We're growing strong, and we're very confident in our full year guide. So I think the market is the best entry point that I could ever imagine for this stock.
You've actually bought stock. And actually, a lot of those in the C-suite are stopping automatically selling it. How much more do you think you have to buy to really shrug off, push off this bear case that's got into the investor mindset?
I think the bear case is really just the terminal value of software as a service companies. It has nothing to do with just ServiceNow. It's like anything that represents, maybe it wasn't as big a guide beat as we are used to and so forth. It's just a real reality of, where do the language models, and these are excellent companies. The hyperscalers are great companies. The language models are excellent companies. We did a deal yesterday with Gemini. We've done a deal with OpenAI and Anthropic. We infuse them into our innovation cycle, and they integrate with us to make sure that AI is done properly in enterprise. And the 95 billion workflows and 7 trillion transactions we have reside over data that it took us 22 years to build. So it's that context engine that we have that brings those language models to life. And they know that. But the market might think, hey, maybe I can do everything with a language model and build it myself, which is not going to happen. Every CIO and CEO will tell you, ServiceNow, for a fraction of my overall IT spend, does enormous work for me. Why would I rebuild it with a language model and pay 10 times more? So that's not even a viable comparison. But yet, comparisons like that exist until proven different.
What will prove it different, Bill? you're such an optimistic guy, and I can sort of sense it today. That energy is being hit by the fact that the stock is having the worst pummeling on record. And you've got RBC saying software sentiment is some of the lowest level in memory. What changes, what shifts sentiment, do you think?
Leadership. You know, the most powerful thing a leader can do is change minds. And the best thing that can change people's minds is performance. And that's why I reiterated with great confidence our full year guidance. I'll be in front of 30,000 people in a few minutes, firing them up on the game plan that we have well in order. The M&A that we did will be additive to a great corporation. This is the fastest growing enterprise software company of all time. First to get to 15 billion. It'll be the first to get to 32 billion. And we're excited to have our shareholders join us in Nevada, Las Vegas in a couple of weeks to explain the midterm and the long-term plan of ServiceNow, which is to double the company in the next few years. So we're excited. We're ready to go. And I would really underplay the narrative that's out there on enterprise software, not just ours, but these large-scale systems are not going to be replaced by language models. They'll be very complementary to the large-scale systems, but they're not going to replace them. So we have been at this now for quite a while in the enterprise. I know how the enterprise works. People just need to keep their chin up and get really serious about making money at a down moment like this. It's never been like this before, so take advantage of it.
We'll let you get to your talent meeting.
What do people think? Is that enough? Is that enough to get people to buy ServiceNow? S&P trying to go for all-time highs here. ServiceNow, Bill McDermott got it to at least 86 from 84. Is that enough? Is that enough? This definitely was, I feel like, a better tone than the earnings call. He was more relaxed, more calm, more situated when he was explaining. Earnings call just felt like he was yelling and upset, which I get it. He probably saw the stock reaction, wasn't happy about it. But is it enough to get it to pump here? Oracle getting a bit of a rebound. 180, still down though on the day. Palantir as well. 146, down 4. It was up from 144. Iran, look at her go, dude. Someone knows something. Is this all Applied Digital? Do we just have to thank APLD today for this deal? Again, 7.5 billion, 15 years on Applied Digital, 300 megawatts. We don't know who the hyper... Does anyone know who, if you're an Applied Digital shareholder, who do you think the hyperscaler is? Because they didn't announce it today. It's either Google, Microsoft, Meta, or Amazon, right? It's one of those. I guess we got to thank them for the breakout on all the neoclouds. Iran being the best. Nebius, 165 as well. It's probably Amazon. Dude, yes, SpaceX. I mean, I know Elon has the data centers in space, but SpaceX is going to need a lot of compute. What if SpaceX becomes the 5th hyperscaler that starts giving these contracts to the neoclouds? Because, I mean, until they get into space, they're still going to need a ton of data centers on Earth. You'd imagine. Well, they probably would just contract Tesla to do it, right? Given Tesla's literally building their own data center. I mean, it just seems like overall demand should be increasing in that neocloud space. SPY right there, 71180. 71180. Amazon going for all-time highs as well. What a market today. SaaS sold off heavy, still sold off pretty heavy. Adobe still down 7, Salesforce down 5, AppLovin down 4, but memory's up, Dr. Pepper is up, Semi's all-time high at 485, Shopify doesn't deserve to be down, but that one's still down. Navitas up another 2, GE Verinova's up. Iran making a great move. I mean, you're pretty green. I mean, Nebius trades at 76 times sales. Aero Environment trades at 6 times sales and growing 120% year over year. How does retail not know about that? Well, retail does know about it. Aero Environment's a pretty popular drone stock with retail. I mean, it's not like an undiscovered name when it comes to AVAV. It's just there were some headwinds that they had throughout the past 2 months with losing certain contracts. At least that's my understanding. That's why they got hit. I mean, this thing was $480 last year. So I don't think it's an under-owned name, but it's not in the same like, you could say Nebius is crazy at the price of sales, basically at 80 times from a valuation perspective, but Nebius is in the right thematic. Drones were the right thematic like a couple months ago, and I think they will continue to be in the right theme, but they're not like this theme that's like, oh my goodness, we're going to buy so many drones tomorrow. Because if the conflict is over with Iran, we're not. We will over the long term, which is why the defense spending budget is super bullish for drones. But data centers is like, we need to buy as much of it every day indefinitely. And that's why maybe that one's just, obviously that's why that's getting a different premium. 712 S&P, the high 712.39. 712.39. Axon making a bit of recovery from 376. Again, software that's down. Comcast is up 7%. What is their ticker again? CM. Do they have earnings? Why is Comcast up 7%? Huh. Yeah, they beat on revenue and EPS. Broadband customers 65,000, revenue 31 versus 30, EPS 79 versus 73. They lost 183,000 subscribers last year. They added 65,000 this year. 322,000 cable TV customers. Net income is down 36% year over year, though, but Street likes it, up 7%. Dividend of 4% on Comcast. NFL revenue helping them pump. Yeah, Comcast is a name to buy for the divvy more than anything. I don't think you expect massive growth there. Texas Instruments, 17, still moving. RVI, trying to get a recovery as they bought OpenAI yesterday. And that's helping. Where's crude? We were at 93.50 in the morning. We are at 93.20. Brent is above 100. Market seeming to shrug it off, giving the S&P the green light here, even with Brent up. Amazon, okay, the all-time high on Amazon, 258.60. So we've got about 50 cents. And we've got an all-time high on Amazon. Let's see if that can make the move up. Iran still moving. Amazon still moving. Wow, Iran really going for 53 here. She's trying. ServiceNow. I mean, 86.30. At least we're above 84. Oh, NVIDIA coming back to 203. Okay, so you got a lot of names waking up, I guess, in the middle of the day. Yes, Anthropic hits $1 trillion. We talked about that yesterday. There's multiple different tools that are out there that have shown Anthropic is above $1 trillion in the private markets, which makes sense. I mean, you can't be putting up that type of growth and staying flat. So the fact that they raised at 380 a couple months ago, that's 3x already. It's pretty incredible. But that is $1 trillion. IGV still down 4. Wow, AMD too. My goodness. 307. AMD officially a $500 billion company. NVIDIA trying to go for 203. AMD 307. That is a new all-time high on AMD. Maybe that's also why your neoclouds are pumping, because the leaders of the semi race are pumping. Oracle finally trying to come back. Microsoft almost coming back. And Iran going for 53. Who's selling their AMD? We're taking profits here. Is anyone scared to do that? Same with NVIDIA. Is anyone selling their NVIDIA here? Like, is anyone taking any profits on NVIDIA and AMD before earnings? Or are we letting it ride? Obviously, AMD has done a lot better than NVIDIA in the past month. I sold half. I trimmed Marvell. Okay, Marvell is reasonable to trim. Diamond Hands, not selling. I sold all of it. I'm not scared. Yeah, I'm not selling my NVIDIA, dude. I think they're going to crush. I have so much faith in this company going into earnings. And if that CPU shortage is as real as everyone says it is, then maybe that's the surprise that Lisa Su gives on earnings. Intel is today. We're not going to listen to the call, but we will take a look at the results today on Intel. The call tends to be really boring, so there's no point of listening to the call. But, last time they pumped before earnings, then they got sold off because they missed on a couple key metrics. I think this quarter is probably going to be different, and there's a lot better sentiment. They have the SpaceX deal. They've got a lot more momentum in regards to servers and CPUs. I don't know, though, man. It's pumped a lot already. This one's going to be tougher. I rolled my covered calls on AMD to 500 2028 to buy the dip. You probably collected a lot of premium there, which is good. I ran 53. Did we get it? We touched it. 53.05. We touched it for Iran. Amazon, we did not touch all-time highs yet. We are very close. It's a good day for the neoclouds. It's a good day for the neoclouds here. They're not seeming to slow down. Again, we talked about the semi inflows. It's becoming unbelievable. 16 straight days in a row, you've had green inflows. Because this is the longest stretch in the history of the stock market. The last time you had a stretch this large was around 2013, 2014. So if we go green again today on SMH, which it looks like we are, we're up 2%. That's going to be 17 days in a row green for semiconductor stocks. And, I wonder how much that ultimately creates a catalyst for the broader market to continue holding up. Wow, this chart is also really interesting. Take a look at this. Americans aged 70 plus now hold a record 17% of all equities and mutual fund shares outstanding. This percentage has tripled since the 2008 financial crisis. Americans under 40 just own 3% of equities. This is half of what it was in the late 1980s. As a result, the difference between the two cohorts is now 14 percentage points. By comparison, the gap stood at 6 percentage points at the start of the 1990s. Yeah, the takeaway from this is long Robinhood, because when we do have the wealth transfer, you're going to get a lot of millennials getting a lot of stocks, and they're going to want to trade on Hood and Coinbase and more Gen Z friendly platforms. Again, not all of that money is going to go to Hood and Coinbase, but if you're 28, 32, 34 right now, and you run into a couple 100,000, if you're already using Robinhood or Coinbase, or Webull, you're not going to put it into Schwab or Fidelity. That's a massive gap, though. Massive gap. ASTS down 4, VG up 1.7. Rocket Lab still down 4% as well. Microsoft to invest $18 billion in Australia. Nadella says Australia has been an enormous opportunity to translate AI into real economic growth and societal benefit. He's currently visiting Sydney as part of the company's global AI tour. Mexico will sell 1 million barrels of crude oil to Japan. Okay, so the Mexicans helping the Japanese with some oil. And then Nadella throwing $18 billion to the Australians. AppLovin down 4. Iran 52.78. Amazon, she's really going for all-time highs. 30 cents. 30 cents from here to see. Iran was based in Australia. That is correct. That is correct. Google did, I think, 10 billion to India. A lot of these hyperscalers are just recognizing they need to invest in a lot of other countries and need to continue throwing out more money. Yeah, it's 25 billion Australian dollars, 18 billion USD. Wow, Amazon, here we go. 20 cents. 20 cents. AMD 308. AMD is just not stopping. Oh, you've got to love this if you're an AMD. You have got to love this. It was $200 a couple weeks ago. Look at that. Look at her go. NVIDIA back to 203. AMD 308. ServiceNow maybe 87. At least a couple green candles coming in. Are they going to let us see an all-time high on Amazon? They might not let us see it easily. But we got to see. We did ring the bell for AMD yesterday at 300. We did it on the market close with Jose. So we did indeed ring the bell there. SPY, do we see 712? We touched it for a little bit, but not yet. Velo is another name that's popping up as a potential short squeeze, up 14%. Velo 3D, $440 million company, 45% short float. Looks like this might be the Newsmax of the day, potentially. 14%. As that one is trying to get... It's funny. Every day, people are finding a new stock that is super shorted and just buying it. Broadcom, 428. Broadcom, 428. So is Amazon officially pumping? Yes. Now we can say Amazon. It's officially pumping. AMD also, obviously. Look at that. It's about to go for 309, dude. Street likes Lisa Su again. They hated her for the past couple months. They love her again. Almost 309 right there. Almost 309. There you go, 309. Wow, this one's just... Let's check resistance at 310. That's a big move on AMD, dude. That's not a small move. $10 above 300. It's got to take a nasty dip just to get even below 300 here. 310, about 30,000 shares. About 30,000 shares. Iran also. Are we going for 54? She's just moving up. Robin, a little recovery. Bloom, almost 240. Poet, that's down. Salesforce still down 8. Salesforce not even getting a little bit of a move up. Meta, I don't know why they took Meta down today. I don't know why it had to lose 670 here. UNH green, Nubank red. GameStop, Michael Burry bought more GameStop yesterday. I mean, it's really hilarious, dude. The guy is fading NVIDIA, AMD, Broadcom, Palantir, and his pick, not to mention buying Adobe and Salesforce, his pick is GameStop. I mean, like, it's not even laughable. It's just like it's almost like he really just is doing it for attention. Like, you can't logically tell me you trust Ryan Cohen more than Lisa Su. You can't tell me that. Amazon, all-time highs. There you go. There you go. 258.79 on Mr. Amazon. 2.78 trillion. Finally. Finally. She is here. 196 on February 17th. And then 205 on April 1st. On April 23rd. There you go. We get 258 on Mr. Amazon. Well, took a minute, but it's finally here. And it's nice for it to be here. Now we just got to hold it. Amazon has a hard time holding a lot of these gains, so hopefully we can hold it. 1.26% on Amazon. Where is Microsoft? 421. Where is NVIDIA? 203. And then AMD again at 310. ServiceNow still stuck. Okay, now I can leave today. I was waiting to get this Amazon all-time high. We got it. Hopefully we can hold it, but I think Jassy is going to crush. AWS will accelerate. Street doesn't care about negative free cash flow anymore. And hopefully we can just hold on to it. ARM, 208.50. That's also up 6%. Okay, it's a look outside of software. If you own the neoclouds, you're happy. If you own AMD, you're very happy. If you own Amazon, you're super happy. If you own Intel, you're happy. If you own the utility names in AI like GE Vernova or Caterpillar, you're happy. If you own nuclear, you're happy. I mean, you can't be. There's a lot of sections of the market today that should be doing okay, even if software broadly is, not doing the best. And so that is what we got. All right, that's it for me. Amazon right there, 258.26. Hopefully we can get above that 260 level. And we'll keep them for there. Obviously, if you own Tesla, not the happiest today, but it could have been worse for Tesla, 376, touch below 370. So at least you're getting a little bit of a bounce right there. Guys, we're not ringing the bell for Amazon just because it hit 258.60. We got to get a new, actual milestone to ring the bell. 258.65 today is not enough for a bell ring. Like Nebius 150, you ring the bell. AMD 300, you ring the bell. Amazon 258.60 is not a bell ring. We got to be more selective with the bell rings. That's not a bell ring. It's just not. That's abusing it. Now, 260, maybe. But you have to have a feeling. Otherwise, we can ring the bell for every stock that hits a couple cents above its all-time high. We have to be select. Otherwise, the bell loses. We didn't ring the bell for Palantir at 150 again because we've seen 150 on Palantir before. That's not a bell ring. 711.85 on the S&P. All right, let's do word of the day, and then we'll be out of here. I'll be back on the close. We'll have Chris from Macro Thursday. We'll see some of his thoughts on the software sell-off. Again, he is in some of these software names, so I'm sure he has some thoughts on kind of what's happening here. And then Intel. So what do we have today? We have Intel, SAP. That's pretty much it. Intel and SAP. So a software name and then a semiconductor name. So that's what we got after the bell. So it'll be probably 4:20ish. We'll get into macro stuff. We're not going to listen to the Intel call, but we'll take a look at Intel, SAP, and we'll keep going. Wow, Bitcoin, we are making a bigger move right here. 78.4. It was at 76 in the morning. Let's see if we can keep that going. That'll help Hood, Coinbase, MicroStrategy, all those names. NVIDIA also trying to go for 302.03. Then AMD at 309. SPY all-time high is 712.39. It's at 712.15. That's 712.15. Okay. Even with all the crappy news today, it was enough to pump it. And to pump different sectors as well outside of software, which is not the worst thing. Word of the day, perspicacity. Keen insight and the ability to notice and understand things quickly. Her perspicacity showed in spotting the shift before the headlines caught up. Perspicacity. Let's see. Perspicacity. How do you say this word? I feel like I'm getting it right. Perspicacity.
Perspicacity.
Look at that. Not bad. Not bad. Perspicacity. Okay, there you go. That's what we got. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'll be back on the market close. We'll have Chris on later today. We'll look at Intel earnings. Hopefully that pumps. If you own software, it's a little ugly, but if the broader market pumps, I think software will be back. ServiceNow does not deserve to be down this much. Tesla probably will be back as well. But semis on their 17th day in a row of green. AMD looking for 310. Amazon, hopefully we stay above 258. And then hopefully the broader tech sector also continues to allow the S&P to keep staying at these all-time highs. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I'll see you guys on the market close. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.